In the shadowy depths of history, buried beneath the sands of time, lie secrets that defy explanation. Ancient civilizations, long forgotten, left behind artifacts and ruins that challenge everything we think we know about our past. What were they trying to tell us? Why did they build with such precision, as though they had knowledge far beyond their time? From lost cities to bizarre symbols, these mysteries echo through the ages, urging us to look deeper. Join us as we unravel some of the most chilling and perplexing archaeological enigmas, truths that could rewrite history itself. Along the windswept coast of the Red Sea, buried beneath layers of shifting sand and forgotten centuries, lies the lost port of Adulis. Once a thriving hub of trade and culture, its name now echoes only in ancient texts and the whispers of historians. It was here, thousands of years ago, that merchants from distant lands converged, trading spices, ivory, gold, and perhaps even secrets. The city was a gateway between Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and the great civilizations of the Mediterranean. But today, its precise location remains a tantalizing enigma. Adulis was the heart of the kingdom of Aksum, a powerful civilization that flourished in the Horn of Africa from the 1st century BC to the 7th century AD. Known for its impressive obelisks, advanced architecture, and dominance in trade, the Aksumites controlled a vast network of sea routes stretching from the coast of modern-day Ethiopia to the heart of the Roman Empire. The city of Adulis, a vital port along this network, served as a crossroads of cultures and commerce. Yet, it seems to have vanished almost as quickly as it had appeared. The last known reference to Adulis comes from a series of Roman and Greek historians who described its bustling docks, vibrant marketplaces, and its role as a key player in the ancient world's maritime trade. But as centuries passed, the port slipped into obscurity. By the time explorers arrived in the region during the 15th century, the city had all but disappeared. Its ruins, if they existed at all, were swallowed by time, weather, and the harsh desert landscape. The most intriguing mystery lies in the absence of definitive archaeological evidence. Unlike many other ancient ports that have been uncovered through excavation, Adulis has never been definitively located. Scholars have long speculated about its whereabouts, with various theories placing it along the coasts of modern-day Eritrea and northern Ethiopia. The most commonly cited location is the area near the town of Zula, where traces of ancient structures and artifacts have been discovered. However, the lack of direct evidence has left room for uncertainty. The ancient texts that mention Adulis describe a thriving city, but they offer few clues as to its precise geography. In the 4th century AD, the Roman geographer Cosmas Indicopleustes mentioned Adulis in his Christian topography, describing it as a bustling port with a strategic position along the trade routes. Yet his account is sketchy at best. His description is vague, filled with gaps, and at times contradictory, leaving many to wonder whether it was a mere approximation or perhaps a reflection of a place that had already begun to fade into legend by his time. For years, many believed the port was simply a casualty of the changing tides of empire and commerce. The rise of Islam in the 7th century and the shifting control of key trade routes may have led to its decline. But there are other theories, more speculative in nature, that suggest a deeper mystery at play. Some have suggested that Adulis was destroyed by an ancient natural disaster, perhaps an earthquake or a massive tsunami, forces of nature capable of erasing entire cities from the maps of history. Others have wondered whether the port was deliberately abandoned, perhaps due to political instability, or even as part of a strategic move by the Aksumite rulers to shift their power inland. One of the most tantalizing aspects of the mystery is the question of what lies buried beneath the sands. Despite occasional reports of discoveries in the region, no major excavations have been conducted in earnest. Could it be that Adulis is simply waiting to be unearthed, its ruins hidden beneath centuries of desertification? Or has the city vanished completely, its very existence nothing more than a shadow of myth? Today, the question of where Adulis lies and what it can tell us about the ancient world remains unresolved, and perhaps that is the most compelling mystery of all. What was lost when Adulis disappeared? Was it just a port, a place of commerce, or was it something more? A crossroads of civilizations, a meeting point for cultures and ideas that shaped the world in ways we may never fully understand? The sands of time may have buried its secrets, but perhaps, just maybe, the story of Adulis is not yet finished. As we leave behind the mystery of Adulis, we turn our attention to another ancient enigma, one that rises from the dust of the Mesopotamian plains. The Ziggurat of Dur-Kurigalzu, a colossal structure built around the 14th century BC, stands as a silent witness to the grandeur of the Kassite Empire, whose power once spanned the Fertile Crescent. Towering above the surrounding landscape, this temple complex was dedicated to the god Enlil, the god of wind and storms. But today, its once proud stature is but a shadow of its former self, and questions linger about its true purpose, its construction, and the mystery surrounding its sudden abandonment. The ziggurat itself, which once soared to over 50 meters in height, was one of the tallest structures of its time. Its massive mud-brick tiers, visible remnants of a lost civilization, still command a sense of awe, even in their fractured state. The scale of the ziggurat is striking, and the very size of its ruins hints at the ambition and power of those who built it. But despite its prominence in the ancient world, Dur-Kurigalzu remains an enigma. The Kassites, who built the city, were not native to Mesopotamia. They emerged from the Zagros Mountains, outside the region's traditional cultural influence, and gradually became rulers of Babylon, a land that had been the heart of the ancient world for millennia. So, what brought these foreign rulers to this particular location to build such an imposing monument? The city of Dur-Kurigalzu itself was established as a capital for the Kassites, and its ziggurat was the center of religious and political life. The ziggurat's purpose, like other structures of its kind, was to bridge the earthly and divine realms, a towering symbol of the god's presence on earth. Yet, as is often the case with ancient monuments, the full meaning behind it remains elusive. Was it simply a religious center, or was it also a political statement, an assertion of the Kassite king's power and divine right to rule? Scholars have long debated whether the ziggurat's size and grandeur were a reflection of the empire's prosperity, or whether it was a desperate attempt by foreign rulers to establish their legitimacy in a land where they were seen as outsiders. As the centuries passed, the Kassite Empire eventually began to lose its grip on power. In the 12th century BC, the empire collapsed, and Dur-Kurigalzu was abandoned. But what happened to the city in the years that followed? Some evidence suggests that the ziggurat was partially dismantled or repurposed, but it is unclear whether the city was entirely deserted, or whether it continued to hold some significance to those who lived nearby. There are even theories suggesting that the ziggurat may have been destroyed by an event as catastrophic as an earthquake, although no definitive proof has been found. In recent years, scholars have returned to the site to unearth more of its secrets, but much of the ziggurat still lies buried beneath the desert soil. The city itself has yielded few inscriptions or documents that could shed light on its history, leaving archaeologists to piece together a fragmented narrative based on the available evidence. And yet, despite the ongoing efforts to uncover the city's past, there are still many questions that remain unanswered. How did a foreign power rise to such prominence in Mesopotamia, and why did Dur-Kurigalzu fall so suddenly? Could there have been a darker, more secretive force at play behind the Kassite rule? Was the ziggurat merely a symbol of religious devotion, or was it a power center, perhaps even a place where ancient rituals were performed in secret, hidden from the eyes of outsiders? The Ziggurat of Dur-Kurigalzu stands as a quiet sentinel, waiting to reveal its hidden truths. But for now, the answers remain obscured by time, and the mystery of why this once great monument was abandoned remains unsolved. What ancient secrets lie buried beneath its crumbled walls? And what, if anything, will future explorers uncover when the sands of time finally give way to the past? These questions linger, inviting us to look closer, to question what we think we know about the ancient world, and to wonder what remains hidden, waiting to be discovered. As we leave the towering remains of the Ziggurat of Dur-Kurigalzu behind, we now find ourselves drawn to the highlands of Peru, where another ancient mystery quietly endures. Here, hidden in the depths of the Andean mountains, lies the Kotosh religious temple, a site that offers as much intrigue as it does questions about early human spirituality. Buried beneath centuries of dirt and forgotten by time, the Kotosh temple stands as a testament to the rich and enigmatic religious practices of the ancient peoples of the region, offering up its mysteries for those who dare to look closer. The site itself is remarkably understated at first glance, a series of clay and stone walls arranged in a series of terraces that rise from the ground like the skeletal remains of a forgotten structure. But once one steps closer, the true significance of this temple begins to emerge. Among the most striking features of the Kotosh religious temple is a small but remarkable artifact, a carved stone carving that depicts two human hands placed palm to palm, a symbol known as the Hands of Kotosh. This image, simple in form yet profound in meaning, raises questions about what rituals may have taken place here, and what beliefs might have driven those who once gathered at this site. Built between 1500 BC and 1000 BC, the Kotosh religious temple is one of the earliest known ceremonial sites in the Americas, predating many of the famous Andean civilizations, such as the Incas. The site's existence hints at the spiritual and religious traditions that began to shape the highland cultures of Peru long before recorded history. However, despite its ancient origins, the true nature of the temple and its purpose remains elusive. Its design suggests it was a place of worship, but what exactly was being worshipped here? And why, after centuries of use, did it eventually fall into abandonment? One of the most fascinating aspects of the Kotosh site is its architecture. The temple is thought to have been used for rituals that connected the physical world to the spiritual realm. Archaeologists have uncovered a series of chambers, some of which contain strange carvings and artifacts, offering glimpses into the spiritual practices of those who once inhabited the area. These features suggest that the Kotosh religious temple may have been more than just a place of prayer. It could have served as a center for shamanic practices, where spiritual leaders connected with the divine through ritualistic ceremonies. The hands, carved into the walls of the temple, may have represented a connection between humans and the gods, a reminder of the duality between the material world and the supernatural. Yet, while much of the symbolism remains open to interpretation, the very structure of the temple suggests it held particular importance. The site is built in a way that reflects a deep understanding of sacred geometry, with the orientation of the buildings and rooms potentially aligning with celestial bodies. The ancient people who built Kotosh may have been seeking to align their worship with the rhythms of the universe. In that sense, the temple may have been more than just a place for human-to-God communication. It may have been an effort to harness the power of the cosmos itself. But there is more to the mystery of Kotosh than meets the eye. Among the ruins, archaeologists have uncovered what appear to be evidence of a much older religious tradition, one that predates the known history of the temple. Layers of carbon dating have suggested that parts of the structure could have been in use as early as 2000 BC, and it is possible that the temple itself was built atop even earlier, forgotten structures. Some theorists suggest that the Kotosh site may have been part of a much larger network of ceremonial sites scattered throughout the Andes, a web of ancient temples connected by spiritual practices and shared belief systems. The deeper we delve into the history of Kotosh, the more questions arise, questions that challenge what we know about early religious practices in the Americas. What if, beyond the apparent simplicity of the temple's stone walls, there was a complex system of rituals that we have yet to uncover? What if Kotosh was a focal point for more than just the local populations, but also a site of interaction between different, possibly distant cultural groups? And what of the hands of Kotosh? Could they be more than just a symbol of divine connection, perhaps representing the duality of human existence, life and death, earthly and spiritual, male and female? It is a powerful image that has captured the imagination of scholars and visitors alike, yet its true significance remains shrouded in mystery. Even more perplexing is the strange nature of the site's abandonment. Why, after so many centuries of use, was the Kotosh temple left to crumble into ruin? Was there a catastrophic event, an earthquake, a flood, or even a shift in political power that led to its eventual desertion? Or, as some have speculated, did the inhabitants of Kotosh, or their successors, abandon the site for reasons tied to spiritual beliefs, perhaps in search of a new location or a new way of connecting with the gods? The answers, as is so often the case with ancient mysteries, may never fully be revealed. And yet, the Kotosh religious temple stands as a symbol of the human drive to understand the divine, a drive that transcends time and geography. As archaeologists continue to study the site, they are faced with as many questions as answers. Each new discovery seems to peel back only a small layer of the story, leaving a sense of awe and wonder in its wake. The Kotosh religious temple is a place where history, belief, and mystery collide, a testament to the ancient peoples who once sought to touch the divine, and whose story still resonates today. What remains hidden beneath its weathered stones? And what might we still learn from the silent whispers of the past? The journey into the mysteries of Kotosh is far from over, and the answers may be just beyond our reach, waiting to be uncovered by those patient enough to listen closely to the past. As we leave the ancient spiritual rituals of Kotosh behind, we find ourselves now at the heart of a much different kind of mystery. A mystery not of divine hands or celestial alignments, but one that touches upon the very origins of civilization itself. Hidden in the rugged hills of Palestine, there lies the archaeological site of Khirbet Qeiyafa, a place where the boundaries between history, myth, and archaeology begin to blur. This modest, ancient settlement, nestled in the foothills of the Judean mountains, is not only a remarkable site, but also a key to understanding a pivotal moment in the ancient world. Khirbet Qeiyafa is located about 30 kilometers southwest of Jerusalem, and its strategic position overlooks the Elah Valley, a region that has been the stage for some of the most well-known biblical events. It is here, in the shadow of these hills, that a civilization thrived around 3,000 years ago, during the late 11th to early 10th centuries, BC. The site was discovered relatively recently, in 2007, but already it has become a focal point for scholars seeking to uncover the historical roots of the Kingdom of Judah and its connections to the ancient Israelites. At first glance, Khirbet Qeiyafa might seem unremarkable, just another mound of dirt and stone, with few remnants of a once thriving settlement. Yet, as archaeologists have uncovered its secrets, the site has revealed itself to be a key to understanding a crucial period in the history of the ancient Near East. The city is surrounded by impressive fortifications, with massive walls and gates that suggest a sophisticated understanding of urban planning and defense. Within these walls, archaeologists have unearthed a wealth of pottery, inscriptions, and artifacts that provide a glimpse into the daily lives of those who lived here. But what truly sets Khirbet Qeiyafa apart from other ancient sites is its potential connection to the biblical story of King David. Some scholars believe that Khirbet Qeiyafa may have been a key city in the early days of the Kingdom of Judah, possibly even a stronghold of David's reign, while others argue that it represents a much earlier phase of the Israelite state. The site's strategic location, combined with the sophistication of its architecture and artifacts, suggests a strong centralized society, one that could have been a precursor to the kingdom that would later come to dominate the region. One of the most tantalizing discoveries at Khirbet Qeiyafa is an inscription found on a shard of pottery, which some scholars believe may contain an early form of Hebrew writing. This inscription, which dates to around 1000 BC, is one of the earliest examples of written Hebrew ever discovered and could provide crucial evidence for the historical existence of King David and the rise of the Kingdom of Judah. But the exact meaning of the inscription remains elusive, and the debate over its significance continues to this day. Is this the earliest written reference to David's kingdom, or is it a more mundane record of daily life? The uncertainty surrounding this artifact is just one example of how Khirbet Qeiyafa continues to challenge our understanding of the past. Beyond the inscription, other discoveries at the site point to a society that was not only politically sophisticated, but also culturally rich. Pottery shards, tools, and weapons have been uncovered in abundance, revealing a people skilled in crafting, agriculture, and warfare. The walls of the city, some of which still stand in impressive form, suggest that Khirbet Qeiyafa was a well-fortified settlement, designed to protect its inhabitants from external threats. The city's size and complexity point to a high level of organization, one that was likely capable of supporting a large population. But what was the purpose of this settlement, and why did it appear during this particular moment in history? While Khirbet Qeiyafa's association with King David remains one of the most compelling theories, it is far from the only one. Some scholars have suggested that the site may not have been a city at all, but rather a military outpost or a border fortification used to defend against neighboring kingdoms. Others argue that it could have been a religious center where rituals and ceremonies were performed in the service of the gods. And then there are those who question whether Khirbet Qeiyafa was even part of the Kingdom of Judah at all. Could it have belonged to a rival faction, perhaps one that opposed the consolidation of power under the Davidic dynasty? The questions surrounding Khirbet Qeiyafa do not end there. One of the most perplexing aspects of the site is the absence of evidence for a significant later occupation. Unlike many other ancient sites, Khirbet Qeiyafa appears to have been abandoned after only a few generations. The walls and buildings, once so carefully constructed, were left to crumble, and the city's population dispersed. What caused the sudden decline of this settlement? Was it a result of external invasion, a natural disaster, or perhaps internal strife? The abandonment of the city remains one of the great mysteries of Khirbet Qeiyafa, and its ultimate fate continues to elude scholars. Adding to the intrigue is the question of the city's mysterious destruction. While there is no clear evidence of violent conflict or warfare, some have suggested that the site's abandonment may have been the result of a dramatic upheaval, perhaps a devastating event that forced the inhabitants to leave quickly. The lack of written records makes it difficult to know for sure, but the absence of signs of widespread destruction only deepens the mystery. Was it the fall of an empire or the birth of a new one? As we step away from Khirbet Qeiyafa, the questions only multiply. Could this humble site hold the key to understanding the rise of the ancient Israelites and the biblical kingdom of Judah? Was it a city ruled by King David, or merely a fort on the fringe of a much larger conflict? The more we learn about Khirbet Qeiyafa, the more it becomes clear that this is not just an archaeological site. It is a portal to the past, a window into a world that is both familiar and utterly foreign. What might still be hidden beneath the stones, waiting for the next generation of explorers to unearth? The mystery remains unsolved, as we continue to search for the elusive truths that lie buried beneath the sands of history. As we leave the arid hills of Palestine and the intriguing remains of Khirbet Qeiyafa behind, we turn our gaze across the waters of the Atlantic to a quieter, more remote corner of Europe, Brittany, in the northwest of France. Here, tucked away among the rolling fields and windswept shores, stands the Kercado passage grave. Unlike the towering ziggurats or vast temples of ancient civilizations, the Kercado grave is subtle in its quiet majesty, but it holds a mystery that has intrigued archaeologists and historians for centuries. The Kercado Passage grave is part of a complex of ancient megalithic structures found on the outskirts of the village of Karnak, a site that is home to one of the largest concentrations of standing stones in Europe. But unlike the better-known alignments of stones that stretch across the region, the Kercado grave is something entirely different, a burial site hidden beneath the earth, its passageways winding deep into the heart of the stone. Standing before the grave, one is struck by the serene yet powerful presence of the place. The tomb is composed of large granite slabs arranged in a narrow passage, leading into a small chamber where the remains of the dead were once laid. It is part of a wider megalithic tradition that stretches back thousands of years to around 3,500 BC, though the Kercado grave itself may date slightly later. The stones, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, stand like silent sentinels, guarding the secrets of the past. Yet, while the structure of the Kercado grave is relatively simple, the questions it raises are anything but. For what purpose was this site created? And why, among the thousands of similar graves scattered across the European landscape, does Kercado continue to stand out in the minds of so many? The most obvious answer is that the grave was a place of burial, yet it seems to have been more than that. Unlike other megalithic tombs, which often consist of a single burial chamber or a simple cairn of stones, the Kercado grave is a passage tomb, carefully constructed with a long, narrow corridor that leads to a central chamber. The passageway itself is a striking feature, lined with massive stone slabs that create a sense of passage, both physical and spiritual. This suggests that the people who built it saw the journey into the tomb as a journey into another world, a rite of passage for the soul of the deceased. But the burial at Kercado does not end with the passage itself. Inside the chamber, archaeologists have uncovered remains that suggest ritualistic practices far beyond simple interment. The site contains evidence of offerings, fragments of pottery, tools, and bones, carefully placed in the tomb alongside the deceased. Some scholars speculate that these items were intended to accompany the dead on their journey into the afterlife, but the exact significance of the objects remains unclear. Was there a belief in an afterlife, or were these offerings part of a larger, more complex ritual of spiritual transformation? The mystery deepens when one considers the architectural complexity of the Kercado grave. Its design is not simply functional but carefully planned, suggesting that those who constructed it possessed advanced knowledge of geometry and astronomy. The alignment of the passageway and the stones at the entrance hints at a connection to the celestial movements of the sun and moon. Could this grave have been built to mark the changing of the seasons, or to align with specific astrological events? Could the ancient people of Brittany have been using the tomb not just as a place of burial, but as a kind of astronomical observatory, a way to mark the passage of time and the cycles of the heavens? And yet, there are other theories, less conventional but no less fascinating, that suggest an even deeper mystery. Some researchers believe that the Kercado passage grave may have had a much broader spiritual significance, perhaps as a site of pilgrimage, or even as a center for ancient religious ceremonies. The presence of the offerings and the care with which the tomb was constructed suggest that it may have been used for more than just the burial of the dead. Could this site have been part of a wider religious network, one that connected the living with the spirits of the ancestors, or even with the stars themselves? Then there are the questions surrounding the people who built the Kercado grave. The tomb is part of the wider megalithic tradition of Brittany, a region known for its stone monuments and alignments, yet little is known about the people who constructed these sites. Who were they, and what motivated them to create such elaborate and mysterious structures? Some scholars suggest that the builders of the Kercado grave were part of a society with a deep spiritual or religious tradition, one that placed great importance on the afterlife and the connection between the living and the dead. Others have posited that the tomb may have been created by a highly organized society with advanced knowledge of engineering and astronomy, perhaps even a lost civilization with forgotten technologies. The Kercado Passage. Grave is not the only burial site of its kind in Brittany, but it is one of the most intriguing. Its careful construction, its alignment with celestial events, and the objects found within suggest that the people who built it were no simple folk. They were a people with knowledge and a profound connection to the spiritual world. But despite all the discoveries, so much remains unknown. What exactly was the purpose of the offerings? How did the builders achieve such precision in their construction? And, perhaps most importantly, why does the Kercado Passage grave still capture our imagination after all these years? As the winds of time continue to erode the stones of Kercado, we are left with more questions than answers. What is hidden beneath the earth, still waiting to be uncovered? What other secrets might the grave hold, just out of reach? The Kercado Passage. Grave stands as a quiet, enigmatic reminder of a past we can never fully know, a glimpse into a world of ancient ritual and belief that still whispers across the centuries. The mystery remains, inviting those willing to listen to its silent call. As we leave behind the stone monuments of Brittany and the enigmatic passage graves, we now journey eastward to a land of ancient rivers and forgotten cities, into the heart of the Indus Valley, where one of the most mysterious and sophisticated urban centers of the ancient world lies buried beneath the earth. The city of Mohenjo-Daro, with its cobbled streets and well-planned grid layout, holds many secrets that have baffled archaeologists for decades. What caused the sudden fall of this thriving metropolis, and what lies beneath the ruins of this once great city? Mohenjo-Daro, part of the Indus Valley civilization, stands as a testament to early urban planning. Discovered in the 1920s, it is located in what is now modern-day Pakistan, near the banks of the Indus River. The city, which flourished around 2500 BC, was one of the most advanced in the ancient world. Its streets were laid out in a grid pattern, and the buildings were made of fired brick, a sophisticated construction method for the time. The city even had a system of advanced drainage, with well-planned sewage systems that would not be seen again in many parts of the world for millennia. Mohenjo-Daro's layout is an impressive feat of engineering. Well-organized streets, residential areas, public baths, and marketplaces. The Great Bath, a large public pool, is one of the most iconic features of the city, suggesting that the people of Mohenjo-Daro may have placed a high value on cleanliness and water rituals. This advanced infrastructure, combined with the discovery of countless artifacts, such as small statues, pottery, and seals, indicates a society that was thriving, sophisticated, and deeply connected to its environment. Yet despite these remarkable achievements, much about Mohenjo-Daro remains shrouded in mystery. What happened to this thriving city? Unlike other ancient cities, where the decline can often be traced to invasion or conquest, the fall of Mohenjo-Daro does not seem to have a clear explanation. Archaeologists have uncovered no signs of warfare or violent destruction. The ruins do not show evidence of a sudden attack. Rather, they suggest a gradual, mysterious abandonment. Some theories propose that a shift in the course of the Indus River could have led to flooding, disrupting the delicate balance of the city's infrastructure. Others suggest that climate change or a prolonged drought may have caused the collapse as the river systems that sustained the city began to dry up. But even these explanations are far from conclusive, and no one truly knows why the people of Mohenjo-Daro suddenly left their city. Perhaps even more perplexing are the unexplained elements of Mohenjo-Daro itself. Among the many artifacts unearthed in the city, one of the most curious is the discovery of a number of human skeletons. Unlike typical burial practices of the time, these bodies were found lying in the open, their positions and the way they were interred hinting at a sudden and unexpected event. Were these people victims of some catastrophe, perhaps a natural disaster, or was this a sign of a more ritualistic end? Perhaps a mass sacrifice or some other unexplained event? What is perhaps most chilling, however, is the discovery of signs of radiation. In the 1970s, a controversial theory emerged suggesting that Mohenjo-Daro might have been the site of an ancient nuclear disaster. The theory was based on the discovery of unusually high levels of radiation in some of the skeletons found at the site, as well as the strange way in which the city's ruins were burned. The remains of the skeletons, some of which were found with strange burns on their bones, have led some to speculate that they were victims of a radiation event, possibly the result of an ancient weapon of mass destruction. Could the civilization of Mohenjo-Daro have had access to technologies that we are only beginning to understand today? Mainstream archaeologists dismiss these theories, suggesting that the radiation levels may be the result of natural occurrences or later contamination of the site. However, the idea that a civilization that predates recorded history by thousands of years could have developed advanced technologies, possibly even nuclear energy, remains a fascinating possibility, one that continues to intrigue researchers and enthusiasts alike. Could Mohenjo-Daro have been the victim of some ancient technology gone awry? Or was it merely a coincidence, an artifact of time, that led to these unusual findings? Another striking feature of Mohenjo-Daro is the absence of clear evidence for its language. While seals and inscriptions have been found throughout the city, no one has yet deciphered the script used by the Indus Valley civilization. This is a critical piece of the puzzle. Without a clear understanding of their language, much of the civilization's culture, beliefs, and reasons for abandoning the city remain locked away. The script, consisting of short inscriptions that appear on seals and tablets, remains as mysterious as the civilization itself, with no definitive breakthrough in decoding it. Perhaps one of the most striking unanswered questions is the identity of the people who lived in Mohenjo-Daro. The city's inhabitants left no written records, and there is little concrete evidence to suggest what they called themselves or how they viewed the world around them. The Indus Valley civilization's people remain enigmatic figures in history. Modern scholars can only speculate on their social structure, religious practices, and daily lives. What drove their sudden rise, and what caused their equally sudden disappearance? Was Mohenjo-Daro an isolated anomaly, or was it part of a broader pattern of rise and fall in ancient civilizations? And if the city's sudden abandonment was not due to invasion or war, what forces, natural, societal, or even spiritual, led to its eventual demise? As we stand amidst the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro, the questions multiply, and the answers remain elusive. Could this once thriving city still have more to reveal? What secrets lie hidden beneath the layers of earth and stone, waiting to be uncovered by future generations? The mystery of Mohenjo-Daro remains, much like the ruins themselves, silent, enigmatic, and waiting to be understood. As we leave behind the mysteries of Mohenjo-Daro, we turn now to a remote and lesser-known corner of the world, a place that, though hidden in the vast steppes of southern Russia, holds a mystery that has captivated archaeologists for decades. This is the site of Arkaim, a circular settlement that predates many of the well-known civilizations of the ancient world. Though not as widely known as the great cities of Mesopotamia or the pyramids of Egypt, Arkaim presents a puzzle that is just as profound and just as enigmatic. The settlement of Arkaim was discovered in the early 1980s, in the vast and desolate expanses of the southern Urals, near the border of Kazakhstan. The site, thought to have been constructed around 2000 BC, is often referred to as the Stonehenge of the steppe, owing to its strikingly similar circular layout to the famous British monument. But Arkaim is no mere replica of Stonehenge. It is a city, a complex network of dwellings, streets, and walls that stretches across a large area, forming a distinct, nearly perfect circle. It's as though the city was designed with a deliberate, almost celestial precision, something that invites deeper examination. Arkaim is no ordinary settlement. The city's layout is remarkably sophisticated, featuring 2 concentric circles of fortifications, with dwellings placed in a radial pattern that is so well organized, it suggests the inhabitants had a very advanced understanding of urban planning. In the center of this circular city lies a central hearth, the heart of the settlement, which may have served as a ritualistic center or gathering place. Around it, the layout radiates outwards in orderly fashion, streets, houses, and defensive walls, all arranged with the precision of a master architect. The design itself suggests that Arkaim was not only a place of habitation, but also a place of profound symbolic importance. But while the layout of Arkaim is extraordinary, it is not just the architecture that has caught the attention of researchers. The site's geographical location is equally mysterious. Arkaim is situated in a remote and inhospitable area, far from the major rivers or trade routes that would typically support a flourishing civilization. And yet, here in the harsh expanse of the steppe, a highly organized city existed. What was the reason for its location? Why did the people of Arkaim choose this seemingly isolated spot for their settlement? Arkaim's construction was not the only thing that has baffled archaeologists. The people who inhabited the city, believed to be part of a Bronze Age culture known as the Sintashta, left behind only sparse clues about their way of life. Evidence of elaborate ritual practices has been found at the site, including traces of ceremonial fires, burial sites, and objects of great symbolic significance. But the most intriguing discoveries are the remains of weapons, specifically early forms of chariots and horse-drawn vehicles. These finds have led some to speculate that the people of Arkaim were the ancestors of the Indo-European cultures that would later spread across Europe and Asia, bringing with them the concept of chariot warfare and other technologies that would define the ancient world for centuries to come. Yet, despite these discoveries, much about Arkaim remains mysterious. The settlement was abandoned after only a few hundred years of occupation, and no one knows for certain why. Unlike other ancient cities, there is no record of war, famine, or natural disaster that could explain its sudden decline. Instead, it seems that the people of Arkaim simply disappeared, leaving behind only the ghostly remains of their once thriving city. Could there have been a shift in climate that made the area untenable? Was there an internal collapse, perhaps related to social upheaval or a breakdown in the complex societal structure they had created? Or was the settlement abandoned for reasons that are still beyond our understanding? Perhaps the most intriguing and speculative theory involves Arkaim's connection to the stars. Some researchers have suggested that the city was designed with an astronomical purpose in mind. The precise alignment of the settlement, the circular layout, and the positioning of key buildings may indicate that the city was built to align with the movements of celestial bodies. In particular, some have proposed that Arkaim was a place for observing the sun, the moon, and the stars, an ancient astronomical observatory in the heart of the steppe. This hypothesis is supported by the discovery of ancient tools that may have been used for celestial observation, as well as the alignment of the settlement itself. Could the people of Arkaim have been using the city not just as a place to live, but as a way to track and understand the movements of the heavens? There are even more fringe theories that suggest a deeper, more mysterious connection between Arkaim and ancient knowledge. Some believe that the settlement may have been the site of a lost, highly advanced civilization, one that possessed knowledge far ahead of its time. The city's precise design and the apparent use of astronomical principles suggest that its creators were not merely trying to survive. They were trying to understand the cosmos itself. Could Arkaim be a remnant of an ancient civilization that was lost to history, its knowledge scattered and forgotten? Were the people of Arkaim trying to unlock the secrets of the universe in a way that was lost to later generations? Despite decades of excavation and research, these questions remain unanswered. The site of Arkaim, with its eerie silence and abandoned streets, continues to puzzle scholars and ignite the imagination of those who study it. What happened to the people who built this extraordinary city? Why did they abandon it so suddenly, and what knowledge did they leave behind? As researchers continue to explore the ruins, it seems that Arkaim is not just an archaeological site, it is a riddle, one that continues to defy easy explanation and invites further discovery. Could the circular settlement of Arkaim be a key to understanding the rise of ancient civilizations? Or is it simply a relic of a forgotten people, their story lost to the sands of time? The answers may lie hidden beneath the earth, waiting for those willing to search, to look deeper into the mystery that this site presents. What secrets are still waiting to be uncovered in the heart of the Urals? The enigma of Arkaim remains unsolved, and perhaps it always will be, an ancient circle of stone, forever turning, waiting for its story to be fully told. As we leave behind the circular mystery of Arkaim and its enigmatic people, we now turn our focus to a site nestled along the banks of the Euphrates River, in what is now modern-day Syria. Here, amid the dust of the ancient Near East, lies a place known as Jerf el-Ahmar, a site that defies easy explanation and opens a window into the mysterious world of early communal living, thousands of years before the rise of the great civilizations we typically associate with the region. Jerf el-Ahmar is an ancient settlement dating back to around 11,000 years ago, or roughly 9,000 BC. Its discovery in the early 1990s was nothing short of remarkable. Unlike many other sites from this time, where small, isolated homes and basic settlements were typically the norm, Jerf el-Ahmar reveals something much more complex. Here, the remains of large communal buildings have been uncovered, structures far too intricate and well-planned for what one might expect from a society on the cusp of transitioning from hunter-gatherers to settled agriculturalists. At the heart of Jerf el-Ahmar is a cluster of massive communal buildings, some of which appear to have served as centers for ritual or social gatherings. These structures are unlike the traditional homes of the era, which were usually simple huts or tents. Instead, the buildings at Jerf el-Ahmar are built with large, carefully crafted stones, and their layout suggests an organized, intentional design with attention to both function and form. The structure's arrangement is strikingly communal, rooms and spaces that appear to have been used by multiple families or groups, with no obvious differentiation between elite and common areas. This suggests a level of social cohesion and cooperation that was uncommon for the time. Inside these buildings, archaeologists have uncovered a wealth of intriguing artifacts. Carved stone figurines, animal bones, and tools have been found in abundance, pointing to a people who were not just living in the area, but actively engaging in rituals, socializing, and perhaps even worshiping deities or forces beyond their immediate surroundings. But what truly stands out are the carved megalithic stones, some of which are adorned with intricate geometric patterns, seemingly at odds with the simplistic lifestyle often associated with this period of prehistory. These stones are thought to have had symbolic or ritualistic significance, but their exact meaning remains elusive. What did they represent? Were they markers for a calendar or astronomical system, or perhaps symbols of spiritual beliefs that we have yet to fully understand? In many ways, Jerf el-Ahmar appears to be an anomaly, a glimpse into a culture far more sophisticated than one would expect for its time. It's as if the inhabitants of Jerf el-Ahmar were living at the crossroads of an ancient world, straddling the line between the nomadic hunter-gatherers of the past and the settled agricultural societies that would soon take root across the Fertile Crescent. And yet, despite the clear evidence of complex social structures and communal living, Jerf el-Ahmar was eventually abandoned, its people leaving behind their stone buildings and mysterious artifacts. The reasons for Jerf el-Ahmar's abandonment remain a matter of speculation. Some researchers believe that the inhabitants were driven away by climate change, perhaps a sudden shift in weather patterns that made the area uninhabitable. Others suggest that it may have been internal social upheaval or the migration of nearby communities that led to the site's decline. But there is no clear answer, no definitive event recorded in the archaeological record. The city's abandonment, like many other ancient mysteries, remains a puzzle that has yet to be solved. What is perhaps most remarkable about Jerf el-Ahmar, however, is the evidence of early spiritual and communal practices that have been uncovered there. Among the most significant findings are a series of stone carvings and figurines that have been linked to ancient religious practices. These carvings, often featuring animals and abstract symbols, point to a belief system that was more developed than one might expect for a society at this stage of its evolution. Were these symbols part of a larger system of rituals, a religion that sought to explain the mysteries of life, death, and the universe? Or were they expressions of something more immediate, a means for the people of Jerf el-Ahmar to understand and control their environment? Even more perplexing are the remains of the structures themselves. The buildings at Jerf el-Ahmar are often described as ritual centers, but the lack of definitive evidence linking them to any one specific form of religious practice leaves many questions open. Why did the people of Jerf el-Ahmar build such elaborate communal structures when most other groups of the same period would have relied on simple dwellings? Was there something about this particular place that made it significant, something beyond its proximity to the Euphrates River or its fertile land? Could Jerf el-Ahmar have been a center of spiritual or political power, a place where leaders, shamans, or priests gathered to perform rites that influenced the lives of surrounding communities? Then there is the question of the sudden disappearance of the settlement. Unlike many ancient sites that can be linked to invasion, warfare, or natural disaster, Jerf el-Ahmar's decline appears to have been far more gradual and perhaps more deliberate. The absence of a clear cause for abandonment has led some researchers to entertain more speculative theories. Could the inhabitants of Jerf el-Ahmar have migrated elsewhere, possibly to another region with more favorable conditions? Or did they leave because they reached a societal crossroads, perhaps driven by the pressure of changing beliefs or a shift in economic resources? As we study the stone carvings and the remains of these communal buildings, it becomes clear that Jerf el-Ahmar was far more than a settlement. It was a focal point for something deeper, something spiritual. But what? The symbols and rituals embedded in the stone and the way the people organized their lives suggest a society that was seeking something greater, a connection between themselves, their environment, and something beyond. The mystery remains, and as we sift through the bones, the figurines, and the carved stones, we are left with more questions than answers. What did the people of Jerf el-Ahmar truly believe? What forces shaped their communal life and led them to build these structures of such complexity? And why did they leave, leaving behind a haunting silence where once there was life? The answers, perhaps, are waiting to be unearthed in the layers of earth and stone that still cover the site. The mystery of Jerf el-Ahmar is far from over. And with every new discovery, the shadow of the past only deepens. What might still be hidden beneath the rubble? And what will it reveal about the world of those who lived here long ago? As we step away from the quiet echoes of Jerf el-Ahmar, where communal structures tell the story of early human cooperation, we now journey deep into the lush jungles of the ancient Maya world. Here, in the heart of the dense rainforest, lies Yaxchilan, a city that flourished during the classic period of the Maya civilization. Though its towering temples and grand pyramids have garnered much attention, it is the lesser structures of Yaxchilan that quietly beckon with their own set of mysteries, structures that remain shrouded in intrigue and leave us questioning the deeper aspects of Maya society. Yaxchilan, located along the Usumacinta River in present-day Mexico, is a sprawling city that rose to prominence between the 5th and 9th centuries A.D. Known for its sophisticated art, intricate stone carvings, and impressive architecture, Yaxchilan is one of the most well-preserved Maya sites in Mesoamerica. Yet, while the larger structures, such as the grand temples and iconic stelae, have been studied extensively, it is the lesser structures scattered throughout the site that raise more questions than answers. Unlike the towering pyramids and ceremonial platforms, these lesser structures are more modest in size and function, often appearing to be utilitarian or residential in nature. However, their design and location suggest that they may have had significant social or ritual purposes. What role did these smaller buildings play in the grander scheme of Maya society? Were they the residences of lesser nobility, or did they serve as sacred spaces for rituals and communal gatherings? The very presence of these buildings challenges our understanding of Maya urban planning, suggesting that Yaxchilan's layout was more complex and layered than we have yet fully realized. One of the most intriguing aspects of these lesser structures is their proximity to the larger ceremonial centers of Yaxchilan. Unlike most ancient cities, where residential and public spaces are clearly separated, the lesser structures of Yaxchilan appear to have been deliberately integrated into the city's ceremonial core. In particular, some of these smaller buildings are found near important temples, plazas, and ball courts, blurring the line between the private and the public. Could these spaces have been places of worship for the elite or commoners alike, where personal and communal rituals took place in tandem with grand public ceremonies? The design of these structures is also remarkable in its own right. Made from finely hewn limestone, the buildings were constructed with remarkable precision, and many of the walls were adorned with intricate carvings and bas-reliefs. These carvings, while less elaborate than those found on the grand temples, still depict scenes of Maya life, hunting, dancing, feasting, and warfare, offering a glimpse into the daily life and beliefs of the Yaxchilan elite. Some of these lesser structures are even adorned with smaller versions of the iconic Maya stelae, suggesting that they may have been sites for smaller, more intimate rituals, possibly involving the offerings of food, goods, or even human sacrifices. But perhaps the most enigmatic feature of these lesser buildings is the way they seem to be aligned with celestial events. Like many ancient cultures, the Maya had a deep connection to the heavens, and their cities were often designed with celestial alignments in mind. In the case of Yaxchilan, the smaller structures show a surprising degree of precision in their orientation, suggesting that their builders may have used these buildings not only for practical or social purposes, but as tools for observing and tracking the stars and planets. Could these lesser buildings have served as astronomical observatories, places where the Maya studied the skies to predict the movements of the sun, moon, and stars? Were they designed to mark specific celestial events, such as eclipses or solstices, which held spiritual or political significance? While the mainstream view holds that these structures were likely domestic or ceremonial in nature, there are more speculative theories that suggest these buildings might have had an even deeper, more mystical function. Some researchers have proposed that these lesser structures were part of an advanced Maya understanding of sacred geometry and cosmology. Could these buildings have been designed to harness specific energies, perhaps tied to the earth or the cosmos? Were they intended to align not just with celestial bodies, but with the natural forces of the land, winds, water, and fire? There is also the question of the materials used in these buildings. The limestone construction, while typical for the region, was often intricately shaped and placed with a precision that would have required advanced knowledge of engineering. Did the people of Yaxchilan possess a deeper understanding of acoustics or resonance? Some researchers suggest that the way the stone was cut and positioned could have been intentional, designed to amplify sound or create a specific acoustical effect during rituals or ceremonies. Could these lesser structures have been designed to harness sound and vibration as part of a spiritual practice, transforming them into places of sacred resonance? Despite the many questions surrounding Yaxchilan's lesser structures, one thing remains clear. They were not built simply for function or convenience. Every aspect of their construction, from their intricate carvings to their celestial alignments, speaks to a people who were deeply attuned to the mysteries of the world around them. They were not just builders, but creators of meaning, weaving their understanding of the cosmos and the divine into the very fabric of their city. The lesser structures of Yaxchilan, often overshadowed by their grander counterparts, serve as a reminder that even the most modest of buildings can hold profound significance, hinting at a deeper, more spiritual side of Maya life that has yet to be fully understood. As we stand before these smaller, quieter structures of Yaxchilan, we are left to wonder, what was their true purpose? Were they places of ritual or something more? Could they have been designed with a sophisticated knowledge of the natural world, or were they simply pragmatic spaces for living and working? The answers to these questions remain elusive, hidden beneath layers of stone and time. And yet, it is this very mystery that continues to draw us in, inviting us to peer deeper into the shadows of the Maya world, to ask questions that may never be fully answered. What secrets are still waiting to be uncovered in these lesser structures? And what might they reveal about the Mayas' understanding of the cosmos, their society, and their place in the world? The mysteries of Yaxchilan, both grand and humble, continue to whisper to us from the jungle's edge, waiting for the next generation to listen. As we leave behind the intricate ruins of Yaxchilan and its lesser structures, we now turn our attention to the banks of the Nile, where the ancient mysteries of Egypt still hold sway. Hidden deep within the vast desert landscape, near the modern city of Aswan, lies a lesser-known but equally captivating site, Gebel el-Silsila. This ancient rock sanctuary, carved directly into the cliffs of the Nile, remains one of Egypt's most enigmatic sites. Although overshadowed by the grandeur of the pyramids and temples in places like Luxor and Cairo, Gebel el-Silsila carries its own quiet yet compelling sense of mystery. Gebel el-Silsila, meaning the mountain of chains, stretches along both sides of the Nile, with towering sandstone cliffs that seem to loom over the river below. It's a vast, remote place, and it's easy to imagine that, for millennia, it remained largely untouched, known only to those few who traveled through this region of ancient Egypt. As a sacred site, Gebel el-Silsila was used by the ancient Egyptians from as early as the New Kingdom period, around 1500 BC, and it holds remnants of worship and ritual practices that span centuries, possibly even millennia. One of the most striking features of Gebel el-Silsila is its array of rock-cut shrines, temples, and inscriptions carved directly into the sandstone cliffs. These shrines are not monumental like those at Karnak or Luxor, but instead they are modest in size and tucked away in a remote part of the landscape, giving them a certain intimacy and mystique. The carvings at Gebel el-Silsila depict various gods and religious symbols, with depictions of pharaohs making offerings to these deities, as well as scenes of rituals and sacred activities. But what is particularly intriguing about these shrines is their location, set deep in the desert, far from the bustling centers of ancient Egypt. Why did the ancient Egyptians choose this remote place as a site for their rock-cut shrines and temples? The surrounding cliffs were not only a practical location for carving stone, offering an abundance of solid sandstone, but also a symbolic one. The ancient Egyptians had long associated mountains and cliffs with the gods, seeing them as the dwellings of the divine, and Gebel el-Silsila is no exception. The cliffs themselves seem to rise from the earth as if they were born from the Nile itself, a natural temple created by the gods for their worship. Yet, as we investigate further, the mystery of Gebel el-Silsila deepens. While there is evidence that the site was used for ritual purposes, what those rituals entailed, and why this specific site was chosen, remains unclear. The sheer number of rock-cut shrines scattered along the cliffs suggests that Gebel el-Silsila was an important sacred location, one that attracted pharaohs, priests, and worshippers for centuries. But what were they worshipping, and what was the true significance of this remote site? One theory suggests that Gebel el-Silsila served as an important center for the quarrying of stone, particularly sandstone, which was used in the construction of many of Egypt's grandest monuments. It's believed that the site was heavily mined for its stone, with workers carving massive blocks for the construction of temples, tombs, and statues. But this idea doesn't quite explain the deeply spiritual and symbolic nature of the site. The shrines and inscriptions speak to a purpose beyond that of mere industrial use. It's as if Gebel el-Silsila was not only a quarry, but a spiritual center, where stone itself was imbued with divine significance. Among the most puzzling elements of Gebel el-Silsila are the mysterious chain-like carvings after which the site is named. These chains, which appear to be etched into the rock itself, have sparked numerous theories about their purpose. Some researchers suggest that the chains may be symbolic representations of the bond between the pharaohs and the gods, while others believe they could represent the physical chain of labor that bound the workers to the site. Could these chains symbolize the unity between the divine and the earthly realms, or were they a reminder of the labor that went into creating Egypt's monumental works? Equally fascinating are the carvings of gods and kings that adorn the cliffs. The rock shrines feature depictions of the Egyptian gods, especially Ra, the sun god, and Amun, the king of the gods, offering a link between Gebel el-Silsila and the broader religious practices of Egypt. The most prominent feature is a series of inscriptions that record the visits of various pharaohs to the site. Pharaohs such as Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, and Ramses II are depicted performing offerings to the gods, solidifying their divine right to rule. However, what stands out about these representations is the apparent emphasis on the pharaoh's personal connection to the divine forces of nature. These acts of worship were not simply ceremonial, they were a reaffirmation of the pharaoh's sacred duty to maintain balance and harmony between the earthly and the divine. But what about the site's true function? Some theories suggest that Gebel el-Silsila may have been a site dedicated to the cult of a specific god or goddess, perhaps one who was associated with the Nile and its annual flooding. The ancient Egyptians were deeply connected to the rhythms of the river, and many of their most important rituals were tied to the cycles of the Nile. Could Gebel el-Silsila have been a place where sacred ceremonies were performed to ensure the fertility of the land and the rise of the Nile? Could the chain carvings, in fact, symbolize the flow of water and the life-giving force of the river itself? Another speculative theory ties Gebel el-Silsila to an even more mysterious aspect of ancient Egyptian spirituality, the concept of the hidden or secret knowledge of the gods. Some researchers believe that the site could have been used for initiations or rites of passage for elite priests or even pharaohs, who were believed to be able to commune directly with the divine. This secret knowledge, which has been alluded to in many ancient texts but never fully understood, might have been passed down in locations such as Gebel el-Silsila. Were these shrines and inscriptions designed not just for public worship, but to preserve the ancient mysteries for a select few? The abandonment of Gebel el-Silsila is equally mysterious. While the site remained in use for many centuries, it gradually fell into neglect after the New Kingdom period. Why did the ancient Egyptians abandon such a profound site? Did changing political and religious beliefs lead to its decline? Or was the site eventually overshadowed by the more famous temples along the Nile? The decline of Gebel el-Silsila remains a subject of speculation, and its eventual obscurity in the historical record adds to the aura of mystery that surrounds it. As we stand in the shadow of these ancient cliffs, looking out over the Nile, we are reminded that even the most remote and humble of sites can hold secrets that defy our understanding. The Gebel el-Silsila rock shrines, with their strange carvings, celestial alignments, and sacred associations, continue to provoke more questions than answers. What exactly was the purpose of this sacred space, and why was it abandoned? And perhaps most intriguingly, what hidden knowledge does this site still hold, waiting to be uncovered? As with so many ancient sites, the true story of Gebel el-Silsila may never be fully understood. But its mystery continues to beckon, inviting us to explore deeper into the heart of ancient Egypt, to ask questions that may never be answered, but that, in their asking, bring us ever closer to the ancient truths that still lie buried beneath the sands of time. As we leave the sacred landscapes of Gebel el-Silsila behind, where ancient Egypt's mysteries are etched into the very stone of the cliffs, we now journey across the vast and arid desert of southern Arizona. Here, in the land of the Sonoran Desert, lies an archaeological site that offers its own enigmatic story, one that quietly stirs questions about the people who once inhabited this land long before the arrival of European explorers. The Casa Grande ruins, located near Coolidge, Arizona, are a testament to a civilization that left behind few traces, yet the structures that remain raise profound questions about their purpose, their builders, and their eventual abandonment. Casa Grande, meaning big house in Spanish, is the name given to a large multi-story adobe structure that stands at the heart of the ruins. The site, once home to the ancient Hohokam people, dates back to around the 13th century, though its significance and function remain subjects of intense speculation. As you approach the ruins, the first thing that captures your attention is the sheer scale of the Casa Grande structure itself. Made of massive adobe walls, the building rises above the desert floor, its simple yet imposing presence standing in stark contrast to the surrounding landscape of dry grass and scattered cacti. Casa Grande is not just a singular building. It's part of a larger complex of ruins spread out across the site. These include smaller structures, canals, and remnants of an advanced irrigation system. The size and design of the Casa Grande structure suggest that it was no ordinary dwelling. The building is a 4-story construction with walls made from a mixture of adobe, wood, and stone. Inside, you'll find rooms that, in some places, have been reduced to rubble, while in others, faint outlines of windows and doorways remain. The most striking feature of Casa Grande, however, is its open roof, a characteristic that is almost unheard of in ancient structures. Why did the builders leave the roof exposed, open to the harsh sun and occasional rains of the desert? The function of Casa Grande has been a subject of great debate. The prevailing theory is that it served as a great house or community center, possibly a place for religious ceremonies or social gatherings. It is thought that the structure housed important leaders or a priestly class, acting as a hub for the Hohokam people. The building's size and design certainly suggest that it was meant to impress, an architectural feat that would have stood out in a land where most people lived in simpler dwellings. But while this theory is plausible, there is still much that remains unexplained. Why would the Hohokam, who were known for their agricultural expertise and complex irrigation systems, build a structure like Casa Grande in such an isolated area, away from the natural resources they needed to thrive? What was its true function, and what significance did it hold for the people who built it? Interestingly, there is evidence that Casa Grande was carefully aligned with celestial events. Some researchers have pointed out that the building's orientation seems to align with the solar cycle, particularly the solstices. Could the Hohokam people have used Casa Grande as a type of astronomical observatory, tracking the movement of the sun as part of a larger spiritual or agricultural practice? This would not be unusual, as many ancient cultures imbued their structures with astronomical significance. The sun and its cycles were crucial to the timing of planting and harvesting, and for the Hohokam, like so many other ancient civilizations, the cosmos and the earth were inextricably linked. Another mystery surrounding Casa Grande is the irrigation system that once fed the region. The Hohokam are believed to have developed one of the most sophisticated irrigation systems in North America, using an intricate network of canals to divert water from the Gila and Salt rivers to their crops. The ruins of these canals can still be seen today, stretching across the desert landscape like ancient veins in the earth. What is perplexing, however, is the timing of the system's construction. The Hohokam built their canals centuries before Casa Grande was even constructed, suggesting that the settlement was part of an already established agricultural society. Yet, despite this advanced technology, the Hohokam people seem to have mysteriously abandoned the region around the end of the 14th century. What happened to them? And why did they leave behind such sophisticated infrastructure and monumental buildings? There are, of course, many theories regarding the fall of the Hohokam. Some believe that environmental factors played a role. Droughts, changes in the river's flow, or even soil depletion could have caused the agricultural system to collapse. Others suggest that social upheaval or external pressures from other groups led to their abandonment of the area. But the fact that Casa Grande and other Hohokam structures were left behind so suddenly, with no clear explanation, has left historians and archaeologists wondering if there might have been a more complex reason for their departure. Was there a cultural or religious shift that led the Hohokam to leave their settlements behind? Or was there an event, some catastrophe or societal collapse, that is simply lost to time? One particularly intriguing feature of the Casa Grande ruins is the way they have been preserved. The site was first recognized by Spanish settlers in the 16th century, but it wasn't until the late 19th century that the ruins were formally studied and protected by the United States government. In fact, Casa Grande was one of the first archaeological sites in the United States to be designated a national monument, back in 1918. The preservation of the site itself raises interesting questions. Why was Casa Grande protected so early on? Was it because of its unique architectural features, or did early explorers and archaeologists sense that there was something more to this place than met the eye? Could the ruins be hiding something deeper, perhaps an artifact or inscription that might explain the true purpose of the building? Despite decades of excavation and research, many questions about Casa Grande remain unanswered. Why was this large, open-roofed structure built in the middle of the desert? And why did the Hohokam abandon it after only a few generations? Was Casa Grande a center for religious rituals, or did it have a more practical function, such as being a community hub or even a residence for a ruling class? The building's unusual design and its connection to celestial alignments suggest that there may have been a deeper symbolic purpose behind its construction, one that has yet to be fully understood. As we stand before the ruins, with the desert winds sweeping across the site, it's impossible not to feel a sense of awe and mystery. Casa Grande remains an enigmatic monument to a civilization that flourished in the heart of the American Southwest and then disappeared without a trace. What secrets might still lie buried beneath the sun-baked adobe? What hidden knowledge could be waiting to be uncovered, perhaps in a long-lost inscription or a forgotten corner of the ruin? The mystery of Casa Grande persists, offering tantalizing glimpses into the past while leaving us with more questions than answers. What might we yet discover about the people who built this majestic, solitary structure in the desert? And what lessons might it still hold for us, waiting to be unlocked by those who dare to explore its depths? As we leave the arid and enigmatic landscape of Casa Grande, where the mysteries of the Hohokam people linger beneath the desert sun, we shift our focus to a very different environment, the sun-drenched island of Cyprus, located in the eastern Mediterranean. Here, amidst the rolling hills and olive groves, lies one of the oldest and most fascinating archaeological sites in Europe, the ancient village of Khirokitia. Known for its remarkable stone houses, Khirokitia presents an intriguing puzzle, one that not only raises questions about the early Neolithic inhabitants of the island, but also challenges our understanding of ancient architecture and society. The village of Khirokitia dates back to around 7000 BC, during the Chalcolithic period, and it is one of the best preserved Neolithic sites in the Mediterranean. As you approach the site, the first thing that stands out is the layout of the settlement itself. Khirokitia was built on the slopes of a hill, offering sweeping views of the surrounding valley and the distant Mediterranean Sea. The houses, which are constructed from large limestone blocks, are arranged in a circular pattern, with narrow pathways weaving between them. The buildings are squat stone structures, with thick walls and conical roofs that would have provided shelter from the elements. Today, these stone houses stand in various stages of preservation, with some nearly intact, while others have been reduced to mere foundations. What makes the stone houses of Khirokitia so fascinating is their unusual design. Unlike the simple rectangular dwellings typically found in other early Neolithic settlements, the homes at Khirokitia are circular in shape, with low curved walls that rise from the ground in a series of concentric rings. Each house is built with a central hearth, and the stone walls are carefully fitted together, showing remarkable precision. The roofs, though no longer intact, were likely made from a combination of wood and reeds, which would have given the structures a distinctive conical appearance. The overall effect is one of unity and symmetry, with each home appearing to be part of a larger, harmonious community. But while the architecture of Khirokitia is certainly impressive, it is also the mystery behind the settlement's design that makes it so intriguing. Why were the houses built in such an unusual circular pattern? And why did the inhabitants of Khirokitia choose to construct their homes out of stone, rather than using the more common materials of the time, such as wood or mud? These are questions that continue to perplex archaeologists. One of the most widely accepted explanations is that the circular houses may have been built to provide stability and protection. The island of Cyprus, with its varied landscape and climate, could have posed challenges for early settlers. The circular design of the houses may have been an effective way to insulate the interior from the heat of the summer sun and the cold of the winter months. The thick stone walls would have helped to keep the homes cool in the summer and warm in the winter, making them an ideal form of shelter for the Neolithic people of Khirokitia. However, some researchers suggest that the layout of the settlement may have had a deeper, more symbolic significance. The circular arrangement of the houses could have been a reflection of the people's cosmological beliefs or spiritual practices. In many ancient cultures, circles were associated with the concept of unity, wholeness, and the cycles of nature, ideas that were central to early agricultural societies. The arrangement of the houses in a circle might have symbolized the interconnectedness of the community, with each house representing a vital part of a greater whole. Could the settlement of Khirokitia have been designed with these symbolic ideas in mind? Was the circular pattern a reflection of the inhabitants' understanding of the world and their place within it? Perhaps even more intriguing than the design of the houses themselves is the question of why Khirokitia was eventually abandoned. The settlement was occupied for several centuries, with the people who lived there developing sophisticated agricultural practices, including the cultivation of grain and the domestication of animals. But by around 3000 BC, the village was suddenly abandoned, and the people who once lived there seem to have disappeared from the archaeological record. The reasons for this abandonment are unclear. Some theorists suggest that a shift in climate or a change in the local environment may have caused the inhabitants to leave, while others point to the possibility of social upheaval or internal conflict. But the truth remains elusive. What is particularly puzzling is the fact that the abandonment of Khirokitia does not appear to have been the result of a sudden disaster, such as a natural catastrophe or an invasion. Unlike other ancient settlements that were destroyed by war or environmental changes, Khirokitia was simply left behind, its houses falling into disrepair and its streets slowly silting up. This slow abandonment raises even more questions about the settlement's significance. Could the people of Khirokitia have intentionally chosen to leave, perhaps moving to other areas in search of better resources or new opportunities? Or did something else, something we may never fully understand, cause them to depart? Adding to the mystery is the discovery of human burials at Khirokitia. The bodies found at the site were buried in a distinctive manner, with the deceased placed in a fetal position and covered by a layer of stones. These burial practices suggest a deep reverence for the dead, and the people of Khirokitia may have had complex beliefs about the afterlife and the role of the dead within their community. The presence of such burials also raises the possibility that the abandonment of the village was linked to changes in religious or spiritual practices. Was the settlement's desertion tied to a shift in the people's beliefs, or did the abandonment occur for more practical reasons, such as a need to relocate to more fertile land? Some fringe theories take the mystery of Khirokitia even further, suggesting that the people who lived there may have had contact with other ancient cultures across the Mediterranean, perhaps even with civilizations that were more advanced than their own. Could Khirokitia have been a trading hub, a place where knowledge and ideas flowed freely between cultures? Or was it simply a small, self-sustaining community with no outside influence? The lack of written records from the time makes it difficult to answer these questions definitively, but the possibility of external connections, whether through trade, migration, or other forms of contact, adds another layer to the mystery. As we walk through the ruins of Khirokitia, the quiet solitude of the stone houses and the winding paths between them invite reflection. What did the people of this ancient village know that we do not? What was the true meaning behind their circular homes, and what did their way of life tell us about their relationship to the land and to each other? The mystery of Khirokitia remains unsolved, its secrets buried beneath the stones and dust of the ages. And as we leave the site, we are left to wonder, what might still lie hidden in the silent ruins, waiting for the right eyes to see and understand? As we leave behind the stone houses of Khirokitia, where the mysteries of an ancient civilization still linger beneath the warm Mediterranean sun, we now travel northward, beyond the reaches of the familiar world of the Neolithic, to the heart of Europe. In the quiet, wooded landscape of northern France, in the commune of Bagneux, lies a site that has puzzled archaeologists and historians for centuries, the Dolmen de Bagneux. This ancient megalithic structure, once a grand burial site, now stands as a silent sentinel to a past we are only beginning to understand. And as we approach this stone wonder, the questions it raises seem endless, its purpose shrouded in the mists of time. The Dolmen de Bagneux is a dolmen, a type of prehistoric tomb composed of large stones, some weighing several tons, which were arranged in a specific configuration. These megalithic structures were common throughout Europe during the late Neolithic and early Bronze Ages, around 4000 to 3000 BC. They are believed to have been used for communal burial practices, serving as the final resting places for important individuals or entire communities. The Dolmen de Bagneux located just outside the village of the same name, is particularly striking because of its sheer scale and the mystery surrounding its construction. The dolmen consists of a massive capstone, estimated to weigh more than 30 tons, which rests atop a series of upright stones arranged in a roughly rectangular shape. The structure, though partially ruined today, still gives a sense of grandeur and purpose. As you stand before the dolmen, the sheer weight and size of the stones create a sense of awe. How did people, thousands of years ago, manage to move such colossal rocks without the machinery we have today? What tools and techniques did they use to cut, transport, and assemble these massive stones with such precision? The location of the Dolmen de Bagneux, nestled within a quiet forest clearing, adds to its mystique. It stands in relative isolation, far removed from the busy towns and trade routes of its time. Why was this site chosen for such an important structure? Was it the landscape itself that held spiritual significance? Or was it the view it provided over the surrounding land? The site's position suggests it may have held special meaning for the people who built it, perhaps tied to celestial alignments or other natural features that we no longer fully understand. Archaeologists believe that the Dolmen de Bagneux was constructed as a collective burial site used by a local community for several generations. The remains of multiple individuals, including bones and artifacts, have been uncovered within the dolmen's chamber, suggesting it was used for communal burials. The presence of pottery, stone tools, and even remnants of animal bones hints at the religious or ritualistic practices that may have been associated with the site. These rituals likely reflected the beliefs of a society that saw death as a passage to another realm, one that required the construction of grand, enduring monuments to honor the dead. Yet, despite these insights, there is still much about the Dolmen de Bagneux that remains unresolved. The size and arrangement of the stones suggest a highly organized and skilled group of people, capable of undertaking such a monumental task. But what motivated them to build this structure in such a manner? Was the dolmen merely a burial tomb, or did it have other purposes that have since been lost to time? Some researchers have even speculated that the dolmen might have had astronomical significance, with its layout possibly aligning with solstices or other celestial events. Could the stones themselves have been part of a larger system for tracking the stars, much like the great stone circles of Britain or the megalithic sites of Malta? Adding to the mystery are the peculiarities of the Dolmen de Bagneux's construction. Unlike many other dolmens found throughout Europe, which are relatively simple in their design, this structure is unusually elaborate. The capstone, which covers the burial chamber, is not only large but also uniquely shaped, suggesting that its positioning was intentional and meaningful. Was it meant to represent the weight of the sky, a metaphor for the divine, or perhaps the presence of an ancestor? The fact that this dolmen was built with such care and precision implies that it held a significance far beyond that of a typical burial site. Another layer of intrigue surrounds the origins of the people who built the Dolmen de Bagneux. While it is generally believed that these people were part of the larger Neolithic culture that spread across Europe, there is little direct evidence about their identity or the social structure that enabled them to undertake such an ambitious project. Were they part of a larger, organized community with specialized labor, or was the construction of the dolmen the result of a collective effort by a smaller, more localized group? And who were the individuals who were buried here? Were they important leaders, warriors, or spiritual figures, or were they simply ordinary people whose graves were given extraordinary attention? Some have even wondered whether the Dolmen de Bagneux could be connected to the ancient rituals of the Celtic peoples who later inhabited the region. The Celts, like many other ancient cultures, built impressive stone monuments and practiced elaborate burial rites. Could the dolmen have been an ancestral site, one that was repurposed or maintained by later generations? There is no definitive evidence to support this theory, but it remains a tantalizing possibility that the site's significance may have evolved over time. The abandonment of the Dolmen de Bagneux is just as mysterious as its construction. By around 2000 BC, the site appears to have been left behind, with no signs of continued use or ritual. What led to its decline? Was it simply a shift in burial practices, or did something more significant, such as a change in belief systems, social structure, or environmental factors, cause the people to move on? The lack of subsequent use raises further questions about the long-term cultural shifts in the region and the broader implications for understanding the spiritual and social dynamics of ancient societies. The fact that the Dolmen de Bagneux has endured for millennia, still standing as a monument to a people whose lives remain largely unknown, only deepens the mystery. As we stand before the great stones, we are left to wonder, what were the people of Bagneux trying to tell us with this structure? Was it a simple burial tomb, or was it something more? A cosmic symbol, a temple of sorts, or even a portal to the divine? The answers may never come, but the questions they raise about the human desire to honor the dead, understand the cosmos, and leave a lasting legacy remain just as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. And as we gaze at the Dolmen de Bagneux, we can't help but ask, what secrets might still lie hidden in these ancient stones, waiting to be uncovered? As we leave the haunting stillness of the Dolmen de Bagneux, where the weight of ancient stone challenges our understanding of time, we now turn to a site that beckons from the highlands of Ecuador. Here, in the Andean foothills, lies Ingapirca, the largest and most well-preserved archaeological site from the Inca Empire in Ecuador. But it is not just the grandeur of the site that invites intrigue. It is the lesser structures scattered across the landscape that hint at a deeper, more enigmatic purpose, one that raises questions about the connections between cultures, the design of sacred spaces, and the forces that shaped ancient Andean society. Ingapirca is best known for its impressive elliptical sun temple, the Temple of the Sun, a remarkable structure that is still a striking feature of the site. However, what draws our attention today is the less visited and often overlooked group of smaller buildings and structures that surround it. These lesser-known ruins are where the true mystery of Ingapirca lies. Spread out across the site, some in ruins and others partially restored, these structures, known as the lesser structures of Ingapirca, offer glimpses into the complexities of the site's broader function and purpose. The main complex at Ingapirca is built with the characteristic Inca technique called ashlar masonry, in which precisely cut stones fit together so tightly that no mortar is needed. The craftsmanship is nothing short of extraordinary, and the level of sophistication in the construction reflects the power and influence of the Inca Empire at its peak. Yet beyond the iconic Temple of the Sun, the lesser structures speak to a different aspect of the society that built them, one that was far more communal and, perhaps, even more mysterious. The smaller buildings at Ingapirca include a series of rectangular rooms, circular foundations, and open-air enclosures that suggest the site's use for multiple purposes. Unlike the grand ceremonial temple, these structures are not as elaborate but are equally telling in their own right. They appear to have been designed for a variety of uses, from housing the workers who maintained the site to storage spaces or perhaps even workshops for artisans who crafted tools and pottery. The lack of written records makes it difficult to fully understand their specific functions, but the arrangement of these lesser structures raises questions about the social and economic structure of Ingapirca. Was this site, as some archaeologists suggest, an administrative center where the Inca managed the surrounding region? Or did it serve a religious function beyond the Temple of the Sun? Some researchers speculate that the lesser structures could have been used as ritual spaces, where the daily lives of the Inca people intersected with their spiritual beliefs. After all, the Inca were known for their complex cosmology, where the earth, the sun, and the stars were believed to be intimately connected. Could the lesser buildings, scattered across the site in patterns that seem to align with astronomical events, have had a symbolic or ritual significance tied to the cosmos? What is even more curious about Ingapirca's lesser structures is their alignment. Unlike the temple, which is oriented to the sun, the smaller structures seem to be aligned with the movements of the stars or other celestial phenomena. Some of the buildings appear to follow the natural contours of the land, while others seem to form a deliberate pattern, one that may have had spiritual or ceremonial significance. Could this arrangement of buildings be more than just a functional design? Was it a reflection of the Inca belief in the sacredness of the land, a physical manifestation of their connection to the cosmos? The question remains open as researchers continue to debate the full significance of the site's layout. In addition to their potential ceremonial role, the lesser structures may have had a more practical purpose as well. Ingapirca, like many Inca sites, was likely a hub for agricultural production. The Andean region, with its varied climate and geography, was ideal for growing a wide range of crops, and the Inca were skilled at using the land to its fullest potential. The smaller buildings could have housed storage areas for crops, tools, or materials for construction. Some of the foundations have been interpreted as the remains of agricultural storage facilities, suggesting that Ingapirca was not only a place of worship, but also a center for managing and distributing resources. Was this a place where agricultural surplus was collected and distributed, further reinforcing the Incas' control over the region? Another possibility is that these lesser structures were part of a larger, broader network of smaller settlements that were connected to Ingapirca. The Inca Empire was known for its vast network of roads and administrative centers, and Ingapirca, though isolated in the mountains, may have been a strategic outpost or a way station along the Inca Trail. Could these lesser buildings have been part of an effort to maintain the empire's vast administrative machinery, with Ingapirca serving as a logistical center for the surrounding highlands? Could the lesser structures house soldiers, administrators, or workers who ensured that the region remained under Inca control? As we stand amidst the ruins of these lesser structures, it's impossible not to feel a sense of mystery that lingers in the air. The grandeur of the Temple of the Sun may steal the spotlight, but it is the smaller, quieter ruins that beckon us to ask questions. Were they simply utilitarian, serving everyday functions for the people who lived here? Or did they have a deeper spiritual significance? What might these buildings reveal about the social dynamics of the Inca, their relationship to the land, and their understanding of the cosmos? Moreover, the abandonment of Ingapirca remains an unresolved mystery. Much like many other ancient sites across the Americas, the reasons for the sudden decline of the settlement are not entirely understood. By the time the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, the Inca had already begun to retreat from many of their peripheral sites, possibly due to a combination of internal unrest, resource depletion, or external threats. Could the lesser structures at Ingapirca hold the key to understanding the social and political changes that led to the site's decline? Did the abandonment of this once thriving center mark the beginning of the end for Inca control in the region? As we leave the lesser structures behind, it's clear that Ingapirca, in all its complexity, holds many secrets, some that have been uncovered and many others that remain locked away beneath the earth. The less explored buildings at the site provide a tantalizing glimpse into a world that has long since passed, yet continues to beckon us to ask questions about its past. Were these structures simple shelters, or were they carefully crafted spaces with a hidden purpose that has yet to be fully understood? The mystery endures, and as we continue to uncover pieces of the puzzle, the questions grow ever more intriguing. What might still be hidden within the lesser ruins of Ingapirca, waiting to reveal their secrets? As we leave behind the rugged highlands of Ingapirca, with its ancient stone structures that still whisper secrets of the Inca, we now turn our gaze to a vastly different world, a world where the movement of the seas and the flow of commerce shaped civilizations in ways that are still only partially understood. Our journey takes us to the dense rainforests of Malaysia, to a place where the echoes of a forgotten port rise from the earth like silent sentinels. The Sungai Batu ancient port structures. Nestled near the northern coast of the island of Sumatra, the Sungai Batu site lies along the banks of the ancient river that gave it its name. The remnants of what was once a thriving port town, the Sungai Batu site has long baffled archaeologists and historians. It is a place where stone structures, once part of a vibrant trade network, now lie in quiet ruin, half buried beneath centuries of jungle growth. Yet, despite its somewhat obscure location, Sungai Batu is believed to have been a vital maritime hub more than 2,000 years ago, serving as an important trading port for Southeast Asia and beyond. The site's significance was only recently uncovered, revealing a much older history than previously thought, and with it, a series of tantalizing questions about the connections between early Southeast Asian civilizations and the wider ancient world. The port structures at Sungai Batu are not as immediately imposing as the grand temples of Angkor or the towering monuments of Egypt, but they possess a quiet majesty. Massive stone blocks, some weighing several tons, were used to create foundations for what appears to have been a series of docks and warehouses. These remnants suggest that the site was a busy, bustling center of commerce, where goods were exchanged not just between local communities, but with distant lands across the Indian Ocean. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of iron production, trade goods such as beads, pottery, and tools, as well as the remains of kilns that suggest an advanced manufacturing capability. The presence of these structures challenges the traditional narrative of ancient Southeast Asia as a peripheral region, disconnected from the great trade networks of the ancient world. Instead, Sungai Batu offers a glimpse into a civilization that played a much more integral role in shaping the early history of maritime trade. Yet, despite the richness of what has been uncovered, many questions remain about the origins and purpose of Sungai Batu. Who built this port, and why did they choose this particular location along the river? The river itself, now overgrown with vegetation and only partially navigable, would have once been a bustling waterway, the lifeblood of trade between the distant civilizations of the time. But why was this site chosen, seemingly far from the sea? Was it an inland hub that facilitated the movement of goods from the coast to the interior, or was it a port that had direct access to the Indian Ocean, now hidden by shifting river channels and landforms? The site's location presents an intriguing puzzle, one that might hold the key to understanding the full extent of its role in the ancient world. One of the most intriguing aspects of Sungai Batu is its connection to the early Malay kingdoms, including the Srivijaya Empire, which would later rise to prominence between the 7th and 13th centuries A.D. Evidence at the site suggests that Sungai Batu could have been a precursor to this powerful maritime empire, a place where the foundations of trade, culture, and political power were laid long before Srivijaya's rise. But the site's origins appear to predate even this empire, reaching back as far as the 5th century BC. This makes Sungai Batu not just an early port, but a key piece in understanding the formation of Southeast Asian maritime power. The discovery of Sungai Batu raises another pressing question. Could this site have been a point of contact between Southeast Asia and the broader ancient world? The trade goods discovered at Sungai Batu suggest a far-reaching network, linking this small corner of the world to India, the Arabian Peninsula, and even the distant shores of East Africa. The presence of Indian-style pottery, Roman coins, and other items of foreign origin suggests that the people of Sungai Batu were part of an ancient maritime Silk Road, one that connected the cultures of Southeast Asia with the great civilizations of the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and South Asia. Could Sungai Batu have been a key port along this network, a bustling nexus of trade, culture, and diplomacy? Or was it simply a local trading post where goods were exchanged on a smaller, more regional scale? Further complicating the picture is the role of the site in the broader context of Southeast Asian history. While Sungai Batu was a vital trading hub, it appears to have been abandoned or fallen into disuse by around the 10th century AD, long before the rise of the Srivijaya Empire in the 7th century. Why did this once thriving port fall into ruin? Was it a shift in trade routes, the rise of new powers in the region, or perhaps an environmental change that caused the river to change course, making the site inaccessible? Or was the abandonment of Sungai Batu linked to a larger regional shift in political or social structures, one that led to the emergence of other, more prominent port cities like Palembang or Java? The reason for its decline is as mysterious as the rise of this ancient port itself. Another curious aspect of Sungai Batu is the quality of the stonework at the site. The stone blocks used in the construction of the docks, warehouses, and other structures are incredibly well crafted, suggesting a highly organized and skilled labor force. But where did the builders of Sungai Batu come from, and how did they acquire the knowledge and resources to create such a sophisticated port infrastructure? Could they have been influenced by other ancient civilizations, such as the Indians or the Chinese, who had a long history of seafaring and trade? Or was the technology and expertise necessary for the construction of these port structures developed independently by the people of Sungai Batu, demonstrating the ingenuity and resourcefulness of early Southeast Asian societies? As we walk through the overgrown jungle and approach the stone remnants of this ancient port, it's hard not to feel a sense of wonder and mystery. What do the people who once lived and worked here know that we don't? What stories might the riverbanks hold, waiting to be uncovered by future generations? The Sungai Batu Ancient Port. Structures remain one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of Southeast Asia, a site that has only begun to reveal its secrets. And as we ponder the significance of this place, one question continues to linger in the air. What hidden connections and forgotten histories might still lie beneath the earth, waiting to be unearthed? As we step away from the ancient echoes of Sungai Batu, where the pulse of an ancient maritime trade network still reverberates through the ruins, we shift our gaze toward the enigmatic shores of East Africa. Here, along the Indian Ocean coast of Tanzania, hidden among the swaying palms and coral reefs, lies the forgotten site of Songo Menara. This ancient city, whose very foundations are crafted from coral stone, offers a glimpse into a long-lost world, a world whose purpose and people remain shrouded in mystery. Songo Menara is located on a small island off the coast, seemingly isolated, yet it once played a crucial role in a vibrant trade network that spanned the Swahili coast and beyond. The site itself is a striking example of coral stone architecture, with an intricate web of buildings and structures spread across the island. From a distance, the site appears almost ethereal, as if it had been carved from the very landscape itself, its coral foundations blending seamlessly with the surrounding sea and sky. The ruins of Songo Menara are not as grand or well-known as those of the great Swahili cities like Kilwa or Zanzibar, but they present a mystery all their own, a mystery that has persisted for centuries. The structures at Songo Menara are constructed primarily from coral stone, a material that was abundantly available along the coast. These coral stone foundations are the heart of the site, providing the base for buildings that were once bustling with life. The walls of these buildings, now mostly in ruins, would have once supported roofs made of wood and palm thatch, providing shelter and shade from the scorching African sun. The layout of the city is carefully planned, with narrow streets and courtyards that suggest a high degree of organization. The precision of the stonework speaks to a well-established tradition of coral stone construction that was developed along the Swahili coast. One of the most striking features of Songo Menara is its extensive use of coral stone in the construction of its foundations. Unlike many other ancient cities that used mud brick or timber for construction, the builders of Songo Menara chose coral stone for its durability and availability. Coral stone is not only sturdy, but also has a unique, almost otherworldly quality. It is a material that connects the site to the very ocean that surrounds it. The builders of Songo Menara may have been responding to the demands of an environment that was both harsh and fragile, where the constant ebb and flow of the tide required a resilient building material. But as with many ancient ruins, the origins of Songo Menara and its builders remain elusive. The city was likely established sometime around the 13th or 14th century AD, though evidence suggests that it may have been abandoned by the 16th century. Why, after flourishing as a significant coastal city, did the people of Songo Menara leave their homes? Was it due to the shifting tides of trade, the encroachment of rival powers, or perhaps environmental factors such as the erosion of the coastline? Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of local pottery, iron tools, and beads at the site, indicating a vibrant culture that was intimately connected to the sea and the land. But the reasons behind the site's abandonment remain a mystery. Could the decline of Songo Menara be linked to larger geopolitical forces, such as the rise of European colonialism, or the changing patterns of trade in the Indian Ocean? Or was it a local collapse, brought about by internal strife or environmental collapse? The city's architecture itself also raises questions about its purpose. While the coral stone foundations are undeniably strong and well-crafted, the lack of significant above-ground structures suggests that Songo Menara may have been a relatively modest settlement, at least compared to other Swahili city-states. It is possible that the city was primarily a trading hub, where goods were exchanged between the coast and the interior, and perhaps even with distant civilizations in the Arabian Peninsula and India. The presence of foreign trade goods at the site, such as Indian ceramics and Persian glass, suggests that the people of Songo Menara were part of a broader network of commerce that spanned the Indian Ocean. Yet, even as we uncover more about the site's connections to global trade networks, there is something undeniably enigmatic about Songo Menara. The absence of grand structures or monumental buildings at the site is puzzling. Most Swahili city-states are known for their impressive mosques, palaces, and coral stone houses, but at Songo Menara, there is a distinct lack of these features. Does this suggest that the city was not a religious or political capital, but rather a place of exchange and diplomacy? Or was Songo Menara a city of a different kind, a place where everyday life and trade took precedence over the construction of monumental architecture? Perhaps even more mysterious is the role of the site's coral stone foundations in the broader context of Swahili architecture. The use of coral stone as a primary building material was common along the Swahili coast, yet the exact techniques employed by the builders of Songo Menara remain unclear. How did they shape the coral stone into the precise forms necessary for construction, and how did they transport the heavy blocks across the island? These questions point to a level of expertise and innovation that remains largely undocumented, leaving us to wonder about the depth of knowledge possessed by the builders of Songo Menara. There is also the question of whether the city was ever truly finished. The remains of several structures at Songo Menara appear to be incomplete, with foundations laid but walls left unfinished. Was this a sign of an abrupt abandonment, or did the city simply grow in a piecemeal fashion over time, with structures being added as needed? The lack of finished buildings might suggest a site that was in a state of transition, a place where construction was ongoing but never fully realized. What happened to the plans for these buildings, and why were they never completed? The abandonment of Songo Menara, along with its enigmatic architecture and quiet ruins, invites speculation on a variety of fronts. Some have suggested that the site may have been abandoned due to environmental changes, perhaps rising sea levels or a decline in local resources. Others have posited that the site was overtaken by more powerful neighboring city-states who may have sought to control the lucrative trade routes of the Swahili coast. Still, others wonder whether Songo Manara may have been part of a broader pattern of migration and settlement, with its people relocating to other coastal cities or even further inland. As we walk through the overgrown remains of this ancient city, the questions continue to mount. What purpose did the coral stone foundation serve, and why did the builders of Songo Manara choose this material above all others? What happened to the people who once lived and traded here, and why did they leave their city behind? The answers, for now, remain elusive. But the quiet ruins of Songo Manara continue to stand as a testament to the ingenuity and mystery of the people who once inhabited this forgotten city. What else might be hidden beneath the coral stone foundations, waiting to be uncovered? As we leave behind the intricate stonework of Songo Manara, where the ebb and flow of ancient trade once shaped a forgotten civilization, we now find ourselves on the sun-drenched island of Malta, in the heart of the Mediterranean. Here, amid the rocky landscapes and coastal beauty, lie the Skorba Temples, an enigmatic complex that, like many ancient sites, continues to elude full understanding, leaving behind more questions than answers. The Skorba Temples, nestled on the edge of the fertile plains of Malta, are some of the oldest freestanding structures in the world. Dating back to around 3600 BC, long before the great empires of Egypt and Mesopotamia, these temples predate even Stonehenge and the pyramids. Yet despite their age, they are far less known. The temples are relatively modest in comparison to other monumental megalithic structures, such as the more famous Hal Saflieni Hypogeum, or the Gantija temples on the neighboring island of Gozo. But the site's subtlety is precisely what makes it so captivating. It invites a deeper investigation into the world of Malta's prehistoric inhabitants and their mysterious beliefs. At first glance, the site of Skorba feels almost sacred, as if the landscape itself holds the key to understanding its ancient builders. The temple complex is composed of two main temples, each surrounded by circular walls that form a protective enclosure. These walls, built of massive stone blocks, are arranged in a distinctive pattern that immediately marks the site as one of purposeful construction, a far cry from the natural features of the island. The stones themselves are rough-hewn, but fit together with an astounding degree of precision, especially considering the tools available at the time. They are a testament to the ingenuity and resourcefulness of the ancient people who built them. One of the most striking features of the Skorba temples is their size. The walls of the temples are relatively low, giving the structure a sense of modest grandeur. This simplicity is perhaps misleading, as archaeologists have suggested that the temples were once adorned with statues, carvings, and other ritualistic artifacts that have since disappeared. Still, the remains of stone altars and hearths offer a glimpse into the site's possible use, a place of worship, community gatherings, or both. The stone altars found within the temple indicate that this was likely a site of religious significance, where rituals were performed in reverence to the earth, the heavens, and perhaps deities of a now-forgotten pantheon. It is widely believed that the people who built the Skorba temples were part of the so-called temple culture of prehistoric Malta, a society that flourished long before written records began. Little is known about these people, and even less is understood about their beliefs. What we do know is that they were skilled builders, capable of creating structures that have endured for thousands of years. The fact that these temples still stand, despite centuries of exposure to the harsh Mediterranean elements, suggests that they were built with both durability and meaning in mind. But why did they build these temples? What purpose did they serve? This is where the mystery of Skorba begins to unfold. The most obvious explanation is that the site was a religious center, But what was its precise function within the broader context of Malta's temple culture? Some archaeologists have proposed that the temples were used for ritual sacrifices or as astronomical observatories, but there is little concrete evidence to support these theories. The alignment of the temples with celestial events, such as the solstices, hints at the possibility that they were used to track the movements of the sun and stars, but the evidence is circumstantial. Others speculate that the temples were part of a much larger network of sacred sites, interconnected by trade, ritual, and shared cultural practices. Malta's position in the central Mediterranean made it a natural meeting point for ancient peoples from North Africa, Sicily, and the eastern Mediterranean. Was Skorba part of a broader religious network where ideas, goods, and rituals were exchanged between distant cultures? The presence of artifacts, such as beads, pottery, and flint tools at Skorba, suggests that the site was not an isolated place of worship, but rather one that was embedded within a larger system of trade and cultural exchange. One of the more intriguing aspects of Skorba is the evidence of its abandonment. By around 2500 BC, the site seems to have been abandoned, and the temples were eventually buried under a layer of soil. Why did the people of Skorba abandon their sacred site? Was it simply a shift in religious practices, or did the temples fall out of favor due to environmental changes or a political upheaval? The abruptness of the abandonment points to something more than a gradual decline. Could there have been a sudden shift in the spiritual or political landscape of Malta? Did another group, with different beliefs or customs, come to the island and displace the temple culture? Or was the site left behind as the people of Skorba moved on to new lands, leaving only the remnants of their once great temples? Adding to the mystery is the absence of written records from this period. The people of Malta did not leave behind any form of written language, making it difficult to understand their worldview, their gods, or their reasons for building such monumental structures. How, then, do we interpret the significance of Skorba? The very nature of the site, a temple, yet so simple in its form, raises more questions than answers. Was it a place where the living communicated with the divine, or was it a funerary site, a place where the deceased were honored and appeased? What did the people who constructed these temples believe about life, death, and the cosmos? It is important to note that the Skorba temples are not unique in Malta. The island is home to several other megalithic temples, including the aforementioned Hal-Saflieni Hypogeum and Gantija. These structures, along with Skorba, form a larger network of sacred sites that have fascinated archaeologists for decades. However, the absence of written records from this period leaves us with only the physical remains to guide us. The Skorba temples are a critical piece of this puzzle, but they are only one part of a much larger and more complex story that continues to elude full comprehension. As we wander through the ruins of Skorba, we are reminded of the fragility of history. These stones, weathered by time and the elements, hold the echoes of a civilization that once thrived here, yet whose voice has all but faded into silence. What did these ancient people know? And what did they hope to communicate to us through their carefully constructed temples? The mysteries of Skorba, like so many other ancient sites, remain unsolved, leaving us with only fragments of a forgotten past. And as we contemplate these ruins, we can't help but ask, what secrets might still lie buried beneath the earth, waiting for a future generation to uncover? As we depart the sun-drenched shores of Malta and the quiet ruins of the Skorba temples, we now find ourselves drawn deep into the heart of Southeast Asia, to a place of eerie solitude, where the land itself seems to whisper ancient secrets. We are in the remote mountains of Laos, at a site that has puzzled archaeologists for decades, a place where hundreds of massive stone jars, scattered across vast plains, remain silent sentinels to a forgotten past. This is the Plain of Jars, one of the most mysterious and unsettling archaeological sites in the world. Spread across the Xiangquang Plateau, The Plain of Jars is unlike anything you've likely encountered in other ancient ruins. Here, amidst the rolling hills and sparse vegetation, over 2,000 enormous stone jars are scattered across several different sites, their precise purpose lost to history. Some of these jars are only a few feet tall, while others stand more than 10 feet high, each one made of sandstone or granite, painstakingly carved and shaped with a level of precision that seems incongruous with the time in which they were made. The sheer number of these jars and their imposing presence, often found in clusters, raises numerous questions. Who created them? Why were they placed here? And most hauntingly, what purpose did they serve? The jars themselves are a feat of craftsmanship. Most are hollow, with wide openings at the top, while others feature intricate carvings and subtle designs on their surfaces. Some even appear to have been broken or cracked, though the reasons for this remain unknown. What is most striking, however, is their sheer scale and the effort that must have gone into transporting and placing them in such remote locations. Some of the jars are scattered across the plateau in groups, while others are found in isolated locations, suggesting that the people who placed them here were organized and purposeful in their design. Despite the grandeur of the site, much about the Plain of Jars remains unexplained. The first reports of the site date back to the 1930s, when French archaeologists began studying the area. However, it wasn't until the 1990s that a concerted effort was made to excavate and understand the jars. But even today, many questions remain. One of the most perplexing aspects of the site is the lack of written records to explain its origins. The jars' creators left no inscriptions, no markers of their identity, and no direct evidence to explain their function. Theories abound as to the purpose of the Plain of Jars. The most widely accepted belief is that the jars were used for some form of burial practice. In fact, several archaeologists have proposed that the jars were used to store the remains of the dead, with the jars acting as sarcophagi or urns. Some jars contain human bones or fragments, which seems to support this hypothesis. But why were such an elaborate set of structures needed to house the dead? Were these monumental jars created for elite members of society, or were they part of a broader funerary ritual that encompassed the entire community? Others suggest that the jars could have had a ceremonial or religious purpose tied to the beliefs of the people who lived here. The Plain of Jars is located in an area that has long been associated with spiritual significance, and the large scale of the site suggests that it was of considerable importance to the people who created it. Were these jars used in ritualistic offerings to the gods, or did they serve as a kind of marker or monument to honor the ancestors? If so, why did the creators choose such an unusual and monumental form for these rituals? Could the jars have been placed to align with the stars or the seasons, much like the stone circles in other parts of the world? The alignment of the jars with celestial bodies has yet to be definitively proven, but the possibility remains tantalizing. One of the more outlandish theories surrounding the Plain of Jars is that they were created by an advanced civilization that predates recorded history. This theory is based on the sheer size and complexity of the jars, as well as the lack of a clear cultural context for their creation. Some have suggested that the jars were the product of a lost civilization, one that possessed knowledge and technology far beyond what is typically associated with the prehistoric peoples of Southeast Asia. Was this an ancient society with knowledge of metallurgy, astronomy, or architecture that somehow vanished, leaving only the cryptic remnants of their work behind? While such theories are speculative, they underscore the sense of mystery and wonder that surrounds the site. More grounded explanations point to the involvement of the indigenous peoples of the region, likely the ancestors of the Lao ethnic groups that live in the area today. Theories suggest that the jars were created by a group known as the Mio, or Hmong people, or perhaps a precursor to the Lao civilizations, which developed later. However, there is still no consensus on which group was responsible for the site, and much about the culture and social structure of the people who created the jars remains elusive. What was the society like, and how did they organize themselves to complete such an ambitious and labor-intensive project? The fact that such a large-scale endeavor would have required substantial planning and communal effort suggests that the plane of jars was central to their beliefs and way of life. Despite the work of archaeologists, the true function of the jars remains a mystery, as does the identity of their creators. Even the dating of the site is a matter of some debate. Some experts place the jars in the early Iron Age, around 500 BC, while others suggest that they are much older, perhaps dating back to as early as 1000 BC. The uncertainty surrounding the timing of the site's creation only adds to the enigma of the Plain of Jars. The Plain of Jars also holds a darker side to its history. During the Second Indochina War, also known as the Vietnam War, the area was heavily bombed by U.S. forces as part of their secret bombing campaign over Laos. The remnants of unexploded ordnance, UXO, still litter the landscape, posing a deadly risk to anyone who ventures too far from the well-trodden paths. The scars of this conflict have made it difficult for archaeologists and historians to fully investigate the site. Yet, even in the face of such destruction, the jars stand resolutely, untouched by time and war. They offer a stark contrast to the violence that has unfolded in the region in more recent years, their silence a reminder of a far earlier, more peaceful past. As we stand amidst these towering stone jars, their hollow eyes seeming to stare out across the plateau, the questions only deepen. Who were the people who built these jars, and what was their true purpose? Were they markers of death, or were they symbols of something more profound, something that spoke to the cosmos or the gods? And perhaps most haunting of all, why has this mystery endured for so long, with no answers, no inscriptions, and no clear explanation of their significance? The Plain of Jars continues to hold its secrets tightly, and even as technology advances and new discoveries are made, we are left to ponder the same questions that have intrigued archaeologists for generations. What other mysteries might the land still conceal, buried beneath centuries of dust, war, and time? What truths about the ancient world are hidden in the shadows of these massive stone jars, waiting for someone to uncover them? As we leave behind the sprawling landscapes of Laos, where the silent jars of the Plain of Jars loom in mystery, we shift our focus to the ancient land of Western Europe, to a region where the whispers of the past echo through the rolling fields and quiet woodlands of France. Here, nestled in the countryside of the Poitou-Charentes region, lies a site that, while lesser known, holds within its earth an enduring enigma. An enigma whose secrets have tantalized archaeologists and historians for centuries. This is the Tumulus of Bougon, a burial site that dates back to the Neolithic era, over 5,000 years ago. The Tumulus of Bougon consists of a series of large burial mounds, or tumuli, that rise from the earth like silent sentinels, their rounded forms now softened by the passage of time. These mounds, some of which still stand several meters high, are located near the village of Bougon in western France, where the land has been used for farming for millennia. Yet, beneath this pastoral landscape, buried in the soil, lie the secrets of a society that existed long before the rise of the great civilizations of Egypt or Mesopotamia. The mounds themselves are made up of massive stones, some weighing several tons, arranged in intricate patterns and sealed beneath layers of earth and stone. These structures suggest a level of organization and skill far beyond what we might expect from such an early period. The most striking feature of the Tumulus of Bougon is the sheer scale of the burial mounds. There are 5 main tumuli at the site, each one a monumental construction in its own right, with chambers inside that were once used for the burial of individuals, families, or entire communities. The largest of these mounds, Tumulus 1, stands nearly 10 meters tall and has a diameter of over 30 meters. When viewed from above, the mounds resemble ancient monuments, seemingly designed to impress, to convey the importance of those interred within them. The scale and complexity of these structures raise immediate questions. Who were the people who built these massive burial sites, and why did they invest so much effort into constructing such grand tombs? The tumuli themselves are composed of large stone slabs, some of which are thought to have been transported from great distances. The skill involved in their construction is evident, with carefully arranged stones creating burial chambers that are surprisingly sophisticated. Inside these chambers, archaeologists have uncovered a wealth of artifacts, pottery, flint tools, bones, and other objects that offer a glimpse into the daily lives and customs of the people who created them. These items suggest that the builders of the Tumulus of Bougon were a well-organized society, one with a clear belief in the afterlife and a deep respect for their dead. The sheer scale of the site and the care taken in its construction imply that the society that built Bougon possessed a significant degree of social organization and ritual. One of the most striking elements of the Tumulus of Bougon is the fact that the site is not a single, isolated burial mound, but rather a collection of multiple tumuli, each with its own set of burial chambers. The placement and alignment of these mounds suggest that they were part of a larger, organized cemetery, designed to accommodate the deceased over many generations. But what does this organization tell us about the society that created it? Could it be that the tumuli were constructed by a single, unified culture, or were they the work of different groups over time, each adding their own layer to the site's history? The archaeological discoveries made at Bougon have led to a variety of theories about the purpose and significance of the site. Some scholars believe that the tumuli were simply burial sites, created to honor the dead and provide a space for the living to come and pay their respects. This is certainly supported by the burial goods found within the tombs, objects that were likely placed alongside the deceased to accompany them in the afterlife. Other theories suggest that the tumuli may have had a ceremonial or religious function, serving as sites of worship or ritual. The alignment of the mounds with the rising sun on certain days, for example, hints at the possibility that the site had some astronomical significance, perhaps marking solstices or other celestial events. Despite these mainstream interpretations, there are aspects of the Tumulus of Bougon that continue to baffle scholars. The most perplexing of these is the question of how the massive stones were transported and arranged. The scale of the mounds, combined with the weight of the stones, suggests that the builders of Bougon possessed advanced engineering techniques. Yet we have no clear evidence of the tools or methods they used to construct the tumuli. Was it simply the labor of a large workforce, or did they have access to technologies that have since been lost to history? Some fringe theories have suggested that the builders of Bougon may have had contact with other, more advanced cultures from distant lands, though there is little evidence to support such claims. Still, the sheer magnitude of the construction and the precision with which the stones were placed continues to challenge our understanding of prehistoric engineering. Another mystery surrounding the Tumulus of Bougon is the purpose of the multiple burial chambers. Why were there so many tombs in such a small area? Was it a sign of a highly stratified society, with different chambers reserved for different classes or families? Or did it reflect a belief in communal burial, where entire families or clans were interred together? Some of the chambers contain multiple burials, suggesting that the people of Bougon may have had complex burial practices, perhaps involving ancestor worship or collective memorialization. But without written records, it is impossible to know for certain what these burial practices meant to the people who created them. The lack of written evidence is one of the most frustrating aspects of the Tumulus of Bougon. Like many other prehistoric sites, the tumuli provide no clear answers as to the beliefs or practices of the people who built them. All that remains are the stones, the bones, and the artifacts, silent remnants of a long-forgotten past. And while these materials offer valuable insights into the lives of the ancient builders, they leave us with many more questions than answers. What rituals were performed at Bougon? What did the people who built the tumuli believe about life, death, and the afterlife? Why did they invest so much effort into creating such monumental burial sites? And why, after thousands of years, do these questions still persist? As we stand before the towering mounds of the Tumulus of Bougon, the questions continue to echo in our minds. The site, with its massive stones and intricate chambers, is a testament to the ingenuity and reverence of an ancient people, yet it remains a puzzle, its true meaning obscured by time. What secrets might still lie buried beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered? What truths about the people who created this site have been lost to history? As we continue our journey through the bizarre and mysterious archaeological sites of the ancient world, the Tumulus of Bougon stands as a haunting reminder that some questions may never be fully answered, and some mysteries will forever remain unsolved. After unraveling the mysteries of the Tumulus of Bougon, we now travel to the rugged terrain of the Horn of Africa, where a vast and ancient kingdom once flourished, now mostly obscured by time. It is here, in the highlands of northern Ethiopia, that we encounter one of the most mysterious and striking archaeological sites in the region, the Yeha Great Temple. And though it stands as a monumental testament to the engineering prowess and religious fervor of its creators, the full significance of this temple, and its place in the long-lost history of the ancient kingdom of Demt, remains shrouded in mystery. Perched on a plateau surrounded by dry, sweeping landscapes, the Yeha Great Temple is both awe-inspiring and enigmatic. The site itself is thought to have been built around the 8th century BC, long before the rise of the powerful Aksumite Empire, which would later dominate the region. Yeha, once a major city and religious center, was an important stronghold for the ancient kingdom of Dumt, a polity whose exact boundaries and history remain elusive. The temple itself, however, has withstood the ravages of time and nature, standing tall as a silent reminder of the glory that once was. The massive stone blocks used in its construction still dominate the site, their scale and craftsmanship hinting at a civilization that was both advanced and deeply committed to religious observance. The most striking feature of the Yeha Great Temple is its sheer size and solidity. Constructed from large, roughly hewn stones, the temple's walls rise steeply, with a sense of monumentality that suggests the people of Yeha viewed this structure as the embodiment of divine power. The temple, though largely ruined, was originally designed as a vast sanctuary, with high walls enclosing an inner sanctum, likely used for religious ceremonies. The stones themselves are heavy, and many still retain the signs of their ancient placement, clinging together with remarkable precision despite the passage of over 2 millennia. This careful construction suggests an advanced knowledge of architecture and engineering, as well as a deeply ingrained sense of devotion to the gods. At the heart of the Yeha Great Temple lies the mystery of its purpose. Was it purely a place of worship, or did it serve other functions, such as a royal or political center? Scholars have long debated this, with some arguing that the temple was a religious site dedicated to the worship of gods who were central to the beliefs of the kingdom of Damat. Archaeological findings have provided some clues. Fragments of ritual offerings, inscriptions, and pottery all point toward a deeply religious culture that placed great importance on the sacred. The design of the temple, with its large central courtyard and towering walls, suggests that it was meant to impress and inspire awe in those who entered. Its location on a high plateau also indicates that it was strategically placed, either to honor the gods or to demonstrate the power and reach of the kingdom itself. What sets Yeha apart from other ancient sites is the almost total lack of written records. Unlike many ancient civilizations, the people of Diamut did not leave behind a clear script or language that could help us decipher their beliefs or daily lives. This has led to a great deal of speculation about their culture. Some researchers believe the kingdom of Dumt was influenced by the civilizations of the Arabian Peninsula, particularly the Sabaeans, due to similarities in architectural styles and religious practices. Others suggest that the kingdom was part of a broader, complex network of trade and cultural exchange, linking ancient Ethiopia to regions as far afield as Egypt and the Mediterranean. Yet despite these educated theories, no definitive answers have emerged to explain how the people of Yeha built their grand temple or what it represented. One of the most tantalizing aspects of Yeha is the possibility that the site was connected to earlier, less well-understood civilizations in the region. Some archaeologists speculate that the temple might have been built on the remnants of an even older structure, potentially predating Diamut itself. Could the Yeha Great Temple be a reimagining of an earlier sacred site, co-opted by the new power of Diamut to serve as a symbol of divine authority? Or was it constructed entirely from scratch as a bold statement of political and religious might? There is no conclusive evidence to either support or dismiss these theories, and as such, Yeha remains a site where the past continues to elude full understanding. A particularly striking aspect of the temple is the architectural similarities it shares with the great temples of the Arabian Peninsula, particularly in terms of its construction and religious function. Some scholars have even suggested that the design of the Yeha Great Temple might have been influenced by Sabaean or South Arabian architecture, which was renowned for its monumental temples. The stonework of Yeha, although coarser and less refined, seems to have borrowed certain elements from these distant cultures. Could it be that the people of Diamut were part of a larger cultural sphere that spanned across the Red Sea, where ideas and traditions from Saba and Arabia were exchanged freely? Was the Yeha Great Temple, with its monumental size and impressive stonework, a reflection of these ancient ties? Despite the compelling theories that connect Yeha to the Sabaeans and other ancient civilizations, some researchers also entertain more speculative ideas. The most provocative of these suggests that the temple at Yeha might have been linked to a much broader network of ancient sacred sites, perhaps even a Pan-African religious system that spanned across the Horn of Africa and beyond. The presence of monumental stone structures in the region, like those at Yeha and in other parts of Ethiopia, hints at a belief system that placed great importance on the spiritual connection between the earth and the heavens. Was the Yeha Great Temple a manifestation of this shared cosmology? And if so, who were the people who built it, and how did they come to share such a sophisticated understanding of the divine? Even more mysterious is the decline of Yeha itself. By around the 5th century BC, the kingdom of Dumt began to disappear from the historical record, and the great temple at Yeha fell into disuse. Some believe the decline of the kingdom was due to shifting political dynamics or external pressures, possibly from the rising power of Aksum to the north. Others speculate that the temple and the surrounding city might have been abandoned due to environmental factors, such as drought or the depletion of resources. What caused this great kingdom to crumble so suddenly, leaving behind only the ruins of the Yeha Great Temple to tell its story? Could the temple, once a symbol of the kingdom's might, have been a casualty of its downfall? Adding to the intrigue is the ongoing excavation of the Yeha Great Temple. Despite the site's relative isolation, archaeologists continue to uncover fragments of pottery, stone carvings, and inscriptions that offer glimpses into the culture of Dumt. Yet, much of the temple remains unexplored, and there are still significant gaps in our understanding of its true purpose. Could further excavations reveal long-lost inscriptions that might unlock the mysteries of the temple's builders? Might new discoveries shed light on the rituals and beliefs that once took place here, transforming our understanding of ancient Ethiopia? As we stand amidst the ruins of the Yeha Great Temple, the questions only multiply. The stone walls, though weathered by centuries of time and neglect, still evoke a sense of grandeur and mystery. Who were the people who built this monument to the divine? What did they believe, and how did they use the temple to communicate with their gods? Was it a place of power, or was it simply a reflection of their deep religious convictions? And why, after more than 2 millennia, do we still find ourselves searching for answers in the shadows of its crumbling stones? The Yeha Great Temple, like so many ancient sites, continues to challenge our understanding of the past. Its grandeur and mystery remain, and as we contemplate the remnants of this once great civilization, we are reminded that some questions, no matter how deeply we probe, may never be fully answered. What secrets lie beneath the stones of Yeha, waiting to be discovered? What ancient truths about the people of Damut might still be hidden, buried within the ruins of their greatest temple? As we leave behind the haunting yet majestic ruins of Yeha, we now find ourselves drawn into the rugged Andean foothills of South America. Here, among the winding valleys and steep mountain slopes of Bolivia, lies a site that remains cloaked in mystery, a place where the lines between history and legend blur. This is Samaipata Fortress, an ancient and enigmatic complex that continues to puzzle archaeologists and historians alike. Samaipata is located in the eastern foothills of the Andes, nestled in the subtropical highlands of Bolivia at an altitude of nearly 2,000 meters. From a distance, the site looks like an ancient kingdom frozen in time, its stone structures and monumental carvings perched dramatically against the backdrop of thick forests and rolling hills. As you approach the site, the scale of the complex becomes apparent. Massive stone terraces, wide ceremonial platforms, and intricately carved stone faces that seem to watch over the land like silent guardians. The sheer size and complexity of Samaipata's layout suggest a people with a deep understanding of both architecture and astronomy, as well as a profound connection to the landscape they inhabited. At the heart of the fortress lies a vast, smooth rock outcrop, some 250 meters long, which has been meticulously shaped by its ancient builders. This colossal stone structure is thought to be the most distinctive feature of Samaipata, and it is here that the true mystery begins. The rock is covered with a series of carefully carved symbols, geometric patterns, and what appear to be representations of animals and human faces. Some of these carvings are unmistakable, such as the well-known image of a serpent-like creature, while others are more abstract, their meanings lost to time. The symbols have led to a variety of theories about the site's purpose, with some suggesting that Samaipata was a ceremonial center, a temple dedicated to the worship of gods or celestial forces, while others believe it may have been an astronomical observatory. Could the carvings be a form of celestial map, charting the positions of stars and planets? Or were they a way to mark the territory of an ancient civilization, claiming dominion over the land? Samaipata's stone carvings are not the only mysterious feature of the site. The fortress itself consists of a sprawling network of stone structures, including platforms, walls, and terraces that rise dramatically from the ground. These structures are thought to have served multiple purposes, including defensive, ceremonial, and residential. The location of the site, perched on a hill with sweeping views of the surrounding valleys, suggests that it was strategically chosen to offer both protection and a commanding presence over the land. But who were the builders of this impressive fortress? And what drove them to construct such a monumental site in the first place? The exact origins of Samaipata remain unclear, but it is believed that the site was first constructed around 2,000 years ago, possibly by the indigenous cultures of the Andes. The site may have been later used and expanded by the Incas, who are thought to have incorporated Samaipata into their vast empire. However, some researchers argue that the site predates the Incas, with evidence suggesting that the original builders were part of a much earlier, yet unknown, civilization. This has led to a variety of theories about the origins of Samaipata and its purpose. Some archaeologists believe that Samaipata was a ceremonial center for the ancient cultures of the region, used for religious rites and rituals. The carved rock surfaces could have served as altars or ritual platforms, where offerings were made to the gods. This theory is supported by the presence of carved symbols that resemble serpents and other animals, which may have held spiritual significance for the people who lived here. Many ancient cultures in South America, including the Incas, revered serpents as symbols of power, fertility, and connection to the divine. The carvings at Samaipata may, therefore, represent the spiritual beliefs of the site's builders, a reflection of their view of the natural world and their relationship with the forces of nature. In addition to its religious function, some scholars have suggested that Samaipata may have been an astronomical observatory, with its carved stone patterns aligning with celestial events such as the solstices or equinoxes. The precise alignment of some of the site's structures with the sun and the stars has fueled this theory. In fact, the layout of the terraces and platforms at Samaipata could suggest that the builders had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and used the site to track the movements of celestial bodies. But the lack of definitive evidence, such as written records or clear alignments to known astronomical events, keeps this theory in the realm of speculation. Adding to the intrigue is the mystery surrounding the construction techniques used to create the stone structures at Samaipata. The builders of the site used massive stone blocks, many of which would have been extremely difficult to transport and shape with the tools available at the time. Some researchers have raised questions about how these blocks were cut and moved to the site, given the steep terrain and the lack of advanced machinery. Was there a lost technology at play here, or was the construction of Samaipata simply the result of a well-organized, highly skilled workforce? Could the builders of Samaipata have possessed a deep knowledge of geology and engineering, allowing them to manipulate the natural landscape to their advantage? The lack of clear evidence regarding the construction methods only deepens the mystery of this ancient site. In addition to its remarkable architecture and enigmatic carvings, Samaipata also holds clues about the people who lived here and the society they created. While little is known about the specific culture that built Samaipata, it is clear that the site played an important role in the region's ancient history. Some theories suggest that the site was a focal point for regional politics and trade, serving as a center for the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture. Its strategic location in the Andean foothills would have made it a key point for controlling access to the highland areas, and its monumental stone structures may have served as symbols of political power. But there is another, darker side to Samaipata's history. The site was abandoned long before the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors, and its fate remains a mystery. Why was such a monumental and strategically important site left to decay? Was it due to internal conflict, natural disaster, or the shifting power dynamics of the region? Some researchers have suggested that Samaipata may have been abandoned due to a sudden change in the climate or an environmental catastrophe, such as prolonged drought or crop failure, while others argue that the fall of the site was tied to the rise of other competing powers in the region. Whatever the cause, Samaipata's abandonment has left an eerie silence hanging over the site, as if it were a place that was lost to time for reasons beyond our comprehension. As we stand amidst the ruins of Samaipata, the questions continue to linger. The carved stones, the terraces, and the platforms seem to whisper secrets that have eluded us for centuries. Who were the people who built this fortress, and what drove them to create such a monumental site? Was it a place of worship, a center for astronomical observation, or a symbol of political power? What happened to the civilization that constructed Samaipata, and why did they disappear from the historical record? And perhaps most haunting of all, what other mysteries does this ancient site still hold, waiting to be uncovered? Samaipata, like so many ancient sites, remains a riddle, a place where the past refuses to reveal its full story. The mystery of its origin, its purpose, and its eventual abandonment continues to captivate archaeologists, historians, and explorers alike. As new excavations are carried out and new theories are proposed, the questions surrounding Samaipata only seem to multiply. What will future research uncover? What hidden truths about this ancient fortress remain buried beneath the earth, waiting for someone to unlock them? The answers may lie just beneath the surface, or they may be lost forever. But one thing is certain: Samaipata's mystery is far from solved, and it will continue to intrigue and captivate for generations to come. Furthermore, the natural world surrounding Samaipata adds an additional layer to its mystery. The site is not only an archaeological wonder, but is also an ecological marvel, situated within a diverse range of habitats. From cloud forests teeming with unique wildlife to high-altitude grasslands, the region is a living testament to the biodiversity of the Andes. Some theorists have even speculated that the landscape itself played a role in the site's creation, influencing the builders' understanding of the cosmos and the natural world. The location's proximity to natural water sources, such as nearby rivers and springs, may have further contributed to Samaipata's function as a ceremonial and political hub. In recent years, the importance of preserving Samaipata has become increasingly evident. As more tourists visit the site, the pressures of modern development, as well as environmental degradation, threaten to erode its integrity. Efforts have been made to protect the site through UNESCO World Heritage status, but the delicate balance between preserving history and accommodating visitors remains a challenge. Local communities and international organizations are working together to ensure that Samaipata's enigmatic beauty and historical significance are preserved for future generations to explore. One intriguing aspect of Samaipata's history is its potential connections to other ancient sites across the Americas. As explorers and archaeologists continue to map ancient civilizations, similarities between Samaipata's stone carvings and those found in other Andean and Mesoamerican sites have sparked speculation about possible cultural exchanges. Could there have been a shared knowledge or tradition that spread across ancient civilizations? The possibility of such connections challenges our understanding of pre-Columbian societies and suggests a more complex and interconnected world than previously thought. The study of Samaipata also raises questions about the development of early human societies in South America. As we look at the intricate designs and large-scale construction efforts at Samaipata, it forces us to reconsider what we know about the technological capabilities of ancient peoples. The lack of written records at Samaipata only deepens the mystery. How did these societies pass down knowledge, plan their architectural feats, and organize large-scale labor forces? These questions remain at the forefront of archaeological inquiry, pushing researchers to explore new methods of investigation, from advanced imaging techniques to detailed chemical analysis of the stone itself. Lastly, there is a spiritual dimension to Samaipata's history that remains elusive but compelling. Some local legends speak of a sacred energy that resides within the site, a mystical force that has drawn people to the area for centuries. Whether these stories are rooted in truth or merely the result of centuries of folklore, they add a layer of reverence and wonder to the already enigmatic nature of Samaipata. The belief in the site's spiritual power might explain why it was abandoned and left to the elements, with future generations perhaps believing it was no longer the right time or place for such a powerful force. This intangible aspect of Samaipata continues to captivate the imagination, reminding us that some mysteries may never be fully explained, but will always remain a part of the human story. As we leave the enigmatic stone terraces of Samaipata behind, we now journey across the sands of time to one of the most intriguing and lesser-known monuments of ancient Egypt, the Osirian. Hidden deep within the shadow of the great temple of Seti, the first at Abydos, the Osirian is a structure that has baffled historians, archaeologists, and Egyptologists for centuries. This ancient temple, buried beneath the desert sands and its own enigmatic history, stands as an enduring testament to the mysteries that still lie within Egypt's most sacred ground. Abydos, one of Egypt's most important religious centers, is famously associated with the cult of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, resurrection, and fertility. Osiris's myth, entwined with themes of death and rebirth, was central to Egyptian belief. However, the Osirian, built thousands of years after the Great Pyramids, is a place that seems to defy conventional understanding of ancient Egyptian architecture, ritual, and religious practices. It is not a tomb, though it contains tomb-like elements, nor is it a grand temple, though it is undeniably monumental. Rather, the Osirian presents a design and a purpose that have left scholars questioning whether it holds secrets far older than the dynasties of Egypt's well-documented rulers. The Osirian itself is a subterranean temple, hidden beneath the earth and surrounded by massive stone blocks. At first glance, it may appear to be just another enigmatic ruin, yet a closer look reveals a structure that seems purposefully designed to evoke the afterlife. The temple is a series of massive rectangular chambers, some of which contain colossal stone pillars carved with religious symbols. But what makes the Osirian so striking isn't just the size or the craftsmanship, it's the peculiar way it is laid out. It appears to be constructed in the shape of a labyrinth, with passageways that spiral inward toward an inner sanctum, where a pool of water once sat, its surface reflecting the heavens. This water-filled chamber hints at ritual significance, possibly linked to rebirth or purification. The temple's construction is not only fascinating for its architectural complexity, but also for its unusual material. Unlike the limestone or sandstone commonly used in other Egyptian monuments, the Osirian is built from large blocks of granite, a material that was not traditionally used for this type of temple. The precision with which these granite blocks were cut and placed only adds to the mystery, for no detailed records of the methods used to shape and transport these stones have survived. And perhaps most perplexing of all is the age of the structure itself. The Osirian was traditionally believed to have been built during the reign of Seti I, 1294 to 1279 BC, but it contains elements, both in its design and construction, that seem to suggest a much older origin, potentially predating Seti I by thousands of years. How could a structure of such sophistication have been constructed during Seti I's time, when Egypt's architectural style had already evolved into more traditional forms? The first puzzling feature of the Osirian is its subterranean design. As we descend into the depths of the temple, we are confronted with an eerie silence, broken only by the echoes of our footsteps on the stone floors. The dark, almost claustrophobic passageways lead us to the heart of the structure, where an underground chamber once contained a pool of water, now dry but still evocative. Some scholars have argued that the water in the Osirian symbolizes the primordial waters of creation, a recurring theme in ancient Egyptian mythology. Water was often viewed as the source of all life, and the concept of rebirth was central to the Egyptian belief system. In this context, the Osirian may have functioned as a symbolic tomb of Osiris, a place where life and death coexisted, and where the cycle of death, rebirth, and resurrection could be enacted in ritual. Another layer of mystery surrounds the exact purpose of the Osirion. While its connection to Osiris is clear, its function remains ambiguous. Was it a tomb, a temple, or perhaps a sanctuary designed for the performance of secret rites? One theory suggests that the Osirion was intended as a symbolic tomb for Osiris himself, a place where the god could rest and be reborn, in keeping with his association with resurrection. This idea is supported by the underground nature of the temple and its labyrinthine design, which mirrors the journey of the soul through the afterlife, as described in Egyptian mythology. However, there is no evidence that the Osirion ever housed a royal burial or any physical remains, which raises the question, could the Osirion have been a purely symbolic tomb, meant to represent Osiris's death and resurrection rather than serve as the final resting place for a human ruler? The layout of the Osirion has sparked additional speculation. Some researchers have noted that the arrangement of the temple mirrors that of the Great Pyramids of Giza, suggesting that it might have a cosmic or astronomical function. The passageways and chambers of the Osirion seem to align with the cardinal directions, and the entire structure appears to be designed to recreate the mythological journey of Osiris. It is possible that the Osirion was intended as a symbolic model of the afterlife, a place where the journey of death and resurrection was reenacted through ritual performance. If this was indeed the case, then the site would have been central to the religious practices of the time, serving as a place where initiates or kings underwent a symbolic death and rebirth, perhaps in preparation for their journey into the afterlife. However, there are other theories that cast doubt on this more conventional view of the Osirion. Some suggest that the temple could be far older than we imagine. The construction methods and design elements used in the Osirion share a remarkable resemblance to older, pre-dynastic Egyptian structures, including the step pyramids of the early dynastic period. If this is the case, then it raises the possibility that the Osirion was built long before the reign of Seti I, perhaps during a much earlier forgotten civilization. The idea that the temple was constructed by a culture that predates the ancient Egyptians as we know them would add another layer of intrigue to an already perplexing mystery. Compounding the mystery is the fact that the Osirion was only rediscovered relatively recently, having been buried under centuries of sand and debris. The structure had been largely forgotten, even by the ancient Egyptians themselves, until it was uncovered in the 19th century by the famous archaeologist Sir William Flinders Petrie. Since then, archaeologists have conducted numerous excavations, but much of the site remains inaccessible due to its subterranean nature. Many believe that there are still hidden chambers and further layers of the temple waiting to be uncovered, possibly holding secrets that could shed new light on the mysterious origins and purpose of the Osirion. The enigmatic nature of the Osirion raises more questions than answers. Why was this grand temple built in such a peculiar way? Was it a temple, a tomb, or something else entirely? Could it be that the Osirion was intended as a place where the ancient Egyptians reenacted the myth of Osiris through secret rituals, perhaps even involving a royal initiate? And if the Osirion is far older than we think, what does that say about the civilization that built it? Was it part of a much older Egyptian tradition, lost to time, that we have yet to fully comprehend? As we stand before the dimly lit chambers of the Osirion, we are reminded that the history of ancient Egypt is filled with mysteries that continue to confound even the most dedicated researchers. The Osirion, with its massive stone blocks, symbolic water-filled pool, and labyrinthine design, represents one of the most captivating and elusive chapters in Egypt's long history. With every discovery made at the site, new questions arise. What secrets lie beneath the sands of Abydos, waiting to be uncovered? What ancient truths still remain hidden in the silent, shadowy halls of the Osirian? Only time and further exploration may hold the key to unlocking this ancient enigma. As we continue to unravel the mysteries of the Osirian, we must also consider the intriguing possibility that it was part of a broader network of sacred sites in ancient Egypt. Abydos, the location of the Osirian, was not just a religious hub for Osiris worship, but also a pilgrimage destination for ancient Egyptians seeking to honor their gods and ancestors. It's possible that the Osirian, with its connection to the afterlife and the god of resurrection, was part of an even larger ritualistic complex designed to facilitate the passage between life and death. Could it have been one of several temples across Egypt that served as an initiation center, guiding future rulers or high priests through a transformative process tied to the spiritual beliefs of the time? Another key consideration is the symbolism of water within the Osirian. Water, as an essential life source, plays a crucial role in Egyptian mythology. The sacred pool in the heart of the temple could symbolize the waters of creation, the primeval chaos from which all life emerged, according to ancient Egyptian belief. The water's reflective surface might have been used in rituals to invoke the spirit of Osiris and to mimic the renewal of life. This could suggest that the Osirian was not only a place of worship, but also one of spiritual cleansing and rebirth, where initiates could experience a kind of divine renewal. The Osirian's design, with its labyrinthine corridors and subterranean chambers, is also worth deeper investigation. It's possible that the labyrinth represented the journey the soul would take in the afterlife, leading to the judgment and eventual resurrection of Osiris. This would mirror the myths in which Osiris is dismembered, then reborn, an allegory for the cycle of death and life. The physical journey through the temple could have been intended to symbolize this spiritual journey, guiding participants through a maze-like experience as they prepared for their own passage to the afterlife. Moreover, the precise alignment of the Osirian's structure with celestial bodies may point to an astronomical purpose. Some scholars believe that ancient Egyptians possessed a profound understanding of the cosmos, using the positions of the stars and planets to inform their construction of religious sites. If the Osirian was indeed aligned with celestial events, it may have served as a place of cosmic significance, where rituals linked to the movement of the heavens were performed. The temple's design could reflect an effort to bring the divine order of the universe into the earthly realm, creating a bridge between the gods and the living. Finally, the rediscovery of the Osirian, buried beneath centuries of sand, adds to its mystique. In some ways, the temple's obscurity throughout history may be symbolic of the hidden nature of ancient Egyptian wisdom. It seems as though the temple itself was a secret kept from the world, waiting for the right moment to be unearthed. As archaeologists continue their work at Abydos, there's a strong belief that the Osirian holds more untold secrets, perhaps hidden inscriptions or unexamined chambers, that could offer new insight into ancient Egyptian religious practices and the role this site played in the civilization's spiritual and political life. Only further exploration will reveal the full extent of its mysteries.